Chapter 2495. The 9 divine 9 dragon cauldrons all erupted with power equivalent to a peak heavenly emperor. How terrifying was that? The attack of that evil god tribe member was instantly shattered. Struck by the terrifying power, his body trembled violently as he retreated rapidly, coughing up large mouthfuls of blood. Everyone's heart trembled violently. A 6-star heavenly emperor was actually repelled by Lu Ming in one move. Furthermore, he vomited a large mouthful of blood. How was this possible? Lu Ming was this strong? Even the Titan longhorn beetle was blinking its eyes hard, thinking that it was seeing things. Kill! Lu Ming shouted as he continued to control the divine 9 dragon cauldron to charge at his opponent. Come and help me. That member of the evil god race turned pale with fright and frantically retreated. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, another 3 people rushed towards Lu Ming. These 3 people were all 6-star heavenly emperors. Adding that evil god race member from before, there were a total of 4 6-star heavenly emperors. 2 members of the evil god tribe and 2 natives. The 4 of them erupted with all of their strength and attacked together, blasting out a terrifying attack. Boom! Boom! The attacks of the 4 6-star heavenly emperors bombarded the divine 9 dragon cauldron one after another. The divine 9 dragon cauldron trembled unceasingly, but those 4 powerhouses were also struck back repeatedly, nearly vomiting blood. Peak heavenly emperor. Someone spoke, his expression extremely solemn. Lu Ming's combat strength was already equivalent to a peak heavenly emperor. Kill! Lu Ming continued to control the divine 9 dragon cauldron to bombard his opponent. The 9 divine cauldrons resonated with each other. Dragon roars rang out, and their might was extremely powerful. The other party's 4 6-star heavenly emperors teamed up and were still no match, being suppressed by Lu Ming, continuously retreating. At this time, Heavenly Sovereign 6 Saints and the others had already arrived and were attacking the other opponents. They were locked in a fierce battle. In this way, the pressure on the heaven realm was greatly reduced. Good, good. The Titan longhorn beetle laughed heartily as it charged forward with all its might. His strength was truly astonishing. Even if he was only left with the cultivation of a 5-star heavenly emperor, he could also have a fierce battle with a 6-star heavenly emperor for a while. Boom! Boom! Lu Ming had the complete upper hand in this series of collisions. Every time they collided, his opponent had to retreat. Puff! Finally, that member of the evil god tribe that had been injured by Lu Ming earlier couldn't take it anymore and vomited large mouthfuls of blood. Come and help us! That member of the evil god race roared. They had a total of 9 6-star heavenly emperors. The other 2 wanted to rush over to help and attack Lu Ming together. However, the Titan longhorn beetle, the 9 lives demonic silkworm and the others did their best to tie down their opponents. As a result, the battle became a stalemate, and Lu Ming's side even had a slight advantage. Damn it, damn it! Duol roared furiously, his face twisting. It was Lu Ming again. Lu Ming had ruined it again. Today, they could have killed a few experts from the heaven realm in one fell swoop. But now, because of Lu Ming's appearance, the battle situation had tilted again. Lu Ming, die! Duol's face was contorted extremely ugly. He roared furiously, finding time to attack Lu Ming but was blocked by Lu Ming with the divine 9 dragon cauldron. Lu Ming was currently controlling the divine 9 dragon cauldron and was completely unafraid of Duol's attack. Duol, how have you been? No, you don't look very good, Lu Ming laughed mockingly. At the same time, he stepped up his attacks, making the other party retreat repeatedly. For 6-star heavenly emperors could only block him for a short while, but they could not last for long. Retreat, retreat! Duol roared furiously, then erupted with a frenzied attack, exchanging several blows with that burly man in battle armor. He found time to attack Lu Ming a few times, blocking Lu Ming's divine nine-dragon cauldron. And those 4 6-star heavenly emperors took the opportunity to hurriedly retreat, joining up with the other 5 6-star heavenly emperors. Lu Ming continued to charge over. But the other party did not linger and retreated rapidly. Duol also shook off his opponent and joined up with the rest of the evil god tribe, retreating while fighting. Duol and the rest's forces were only a little weaker than Lu Ming and the rest. At this time, they were bent on retreating. Lu Ming and the rest also found it very difficult to make them stay. After chasing for a while, Duol and the rest finally retreated. Lu Ming, I didn't expect your strength to have already reached this step. This time, it's all thanks to your help. The Titan Longhorn Beetle walked over to thank him. Senior is too serious. I also relied on the divine nine-dragon cauldron. Lu Ming smiled slightly and put away the divine nine-dragon cauldron. Then, everyone introduced themselves to each other. Lu Ming knew that the burly man in battle armor was called Zhanli. He was a peak powerhouse who rose up after the ancient war, with the cultivation of a peak heavenly emperor. In the past, he had always been cultivating in the lair of Zulong. Seniors, do you know what happened? Along the way, we discovered that the native major forces seemed to be cooperating with the evil god tribe. Lu Ming asked. Something big has happened. Zhanli sighed. The Titan Longhorn Beetle, 9 Lives Demon Silkworm, and the rest also had solemn expressions. Lu Ming and Heavenly Sovereign 6 Saints were shocked. Even the Titan Longhorn Beetle, these big shots who had seen great storms and waves, were like this. What had happened? The reason why the surrounding major forces listened to the evil god tribe and cooperated with them to deal with the heaven realm is because of the orders issued by the Yellow Spring Empire. The Titan Longhorn Beetle said. The Yellow Spring Empire, it really is the Yellow Spring Empire. Senior, what happened to the Yellow Spring Empire? Lu Ming asked. The largest cursed land in the Yellow Spring world is in the Yellow Spring Empire. Legend has it that there are fruits of life inside. No matter how serious the injury is, it can be cured. Even the injuries of the gods can be cured. However, to enter this cursed land, one must obtain the help of the upper echelons of the Yellow Spring Empire. Therefore, Senior Ancestral Dragon and the foreign race's divine ancestor have all come to the Yellow Spring Empire, wanting to cooperate with the Yellow Spring Empire. This way, there will be competition between them. We've received news that Senior Ancestral Dragon has been defeated. The foreign race's divine ancestor has gained the trust of the upper echelons of the Yellow Spring Empire. The Titan Longhorn Beetle explained. What? Lu Ming and the others were shocked. The Ancestral Dragon had been defeated in the competition of the Yellow Spring Empire. They finally understood why the surrounding major forces had cooperated with the evil god tribe to deal with the people of the Heaven Realm. That was the order of the Yellow Spring Empire. Who in the Yellow Spring world would dare to disobey the order of the Yellow Spring Empire? Then what about Senior Ancestral Dragon? Someone asked in a hoarse voice. We don't know if he's dead or alive. The Titan Longhorn Beetle said. Rumble. It was as if thunder had exploded in everyone's minds. We don't know if he's dead or alive. Not knowing if the Ancestral Dragon was dead or alive was an unbearable blow to anyone in the Heaven Realm. The Ancestral Dragon was the backbone of the Heaven Realm. Currently, in the entire Heaven Realm and Primordial World, only the Ancestral Dragon had reached the Martial God Realm. However, the evil god tribe had the foreign race's divine ancestor and divine ancestor Sha Xian. In the Martial God Realm, they were already at a disadvantage and felt a sense of danger at all times. If something happened to the Ancestral Dragon, the Heaven Realm and Primordial World would have no hope. They were no match for the evil god tribe and were destined to be destroyed. Chapter 2496. Without the ancestral dragon, how were they supposed to fight the battle? Senior ancestral dragon has experienced the ancient battle. What kind of danger has he not encountered? Besides, senior ancestral dragon is a martial god realm expert. His capabilities are incomparable to ours. I believe senior ancestral dragon won't be in danger that easily. Lu Ming said. I agree, we shouldn't worry too much. What we should do now is to improve ourselves and eliminate the evil god tribe. Zhang said. Despite that, the others still felt like a huge rock was pressing down on their hearts. There was more than one god in the Yellow Spring Empire. If they were to team up with the sacred ancestor of the non-human tribes to deal with the ancestral dragon, the situation would be different. After all, the ancestral dragon had yet to recover from his injuries, thus he was not in his peak condition. Lu Ming, where are you going? The Titan Longhorn Beetle asked. We were planning to go to the Yellow Spring Empire to investigate the situation, but I've decided to pay the Yellow Spring Empire a visit. Lu Ming said. The Yellow Spring Empire? The Titan Longhorn Beetle and the others were startled. That's right, I'm going to investigate Senior Ancestral Dragon's situation. Since we can't go to the other factions or the Cursed Lands, we might as well pay the Yellow Spring Empire a visit. Lu Ming said. Instead of hiding and wasting their time, it was better to go to the Yellow Spring Empire to investigate the situation. Only by knowing the situation would they be able to deal with the situation. But, the evil god tribe has done something to the entrance of the Yellow Spring Empire. Any living being from the heaven realm will be detected as soon as they come close. We won't be able to enter the Yellow Spring Empire. Zhang sighed. Senior, I won't take the risk easily. If we can't enter the Yellow Spring Empire, I'll see if I can find anything nearby. Lu Ming said. How about this, we'll go together. We can look after one another. The 9 Lives Demonic Silkworm said. Alright, we'll go together. Zhang, the Titan Longhorn Beetle, and the others nodded. Alright, seniors, if you all enter my little world, it'll be easier for me to move around on my own. Lu Ming said. Sure. The others nodded. With a thought, Lu Ming's minor world appeared. Everyone turned into rays of light and entered Lu Ming's minor world. After that, Lu Ming changed his appearance and headed for the Yellow Springs imperial capital alone. The Yellow Springs Empire was the ruler of the Yellow Springs world. The Yellow Springs Empire's territory alone was comparable to the Grand Lucid Sky realm. Around the Yellow Springs Empire, there were other forces of various sizes. Lu Ming's speed increased explosively as he traveled through the void. He was many times faster than before. In less than a day, Lu Ming arrived in the vicinity of the Yellow Spring Imperial Capital. The Yellow Springs Imperial Capital was incomparably majestic. It was even bigger than Two World City, and bigger than any city Lu Ming had ever seen. Numerous paths led to the Yellow Springs Imperial Capital. Tens of thousands of kilometers away from the Yellow Springs Empire were towering mountains that reached into the clouds. Lu Ming appeared on a mountain and looked into the distance. Sure enough, the evil god tribe had tampered with the gates of the Yellow Springs Imperial Capital. As long as one entered, they would be able to detect the aura of the heaven realm. Lu Ming changed directions and looked at the other city gates. It was the same. Lu Ming even saw traces of the evil god tribe at some of the city gates. How can I sneak into the Yellow Springs Imperial Capital? Lu Ming furrowed his brows. If he couldn't enter the Yellow Springs Imperial Capital, it would be difficult to obtain useful information. Who is it? Suddenly, Lu Ming turned around and shouted coldly. His gaze was as sharp as a sword. He felt that there was a strange movement in the space behind him. Lu Ming, your spiritual sense is getting sharper. A chuckle sounded. Then, a figure flashed and a beautiful woman appeared. Little Qing. Lu Ming was overjoyed. If this beautiful woman wasn't Xian Yanqing, who else could she be? Lu Ming did not expect to run into Xian Yinqing here. Lu Ming, you have made great progress in your cultivation. Xian Yinqing smiled and walked over, holding Lu Ming's large hand. As your man, how can I not improve? I'm about to be surpassed by you. Lu Ming smiled. At the same time, he also discovered that Xian Yinqing had also improved greatly. Now, Xian Yinqing's cultivation had shockingly reached 5-star Heavenly Emperor. One had to know, when they entered the Yellow Springs Mountain, Xian Yinqing's cultivation was a 2-star Heavenly Emperor. In a short 20 years, Xian Yinqing's cultivation broke through 3 levels in a row. This was extremely shocking. Xian Yinqing's cultivation was that of a Heavenly Emperor, not a Great Emperor. Every step a Heavenly Emperor took was very difficult. In 20 years, breaking through 3 levels in a row, if this got out, it would scare people to death. Lu Ming discovered that ever since Xian Yinqing devoured her past life's memories, her cultivation speed became even more terrifying. Compared to before devouring, it was much faster. However, even so, it also would not be fast like this. Lu Ming knew that in the Yellow Springs Mountain, Xian Yinqing most likely had a fortuitous encounter. Furthermore, Xian Yinqing's combat strength was extremely powerful. Back then, when she was a peak Great Emperor, she could already fight with Lu Ming. Now, although Xian Yinqing's cultivation was a 5-star Heavenly Emperor, she could definitely fight with a peak Great Emperor, or even stronger. Shameless, believe it or not, I'll beat you down right now. Xian Yinqing rolled her eyes at Lu Ming, but her face was full of smiles. Little Qing, why are you here? Lu Ming asked. Now, there are shadows of the evil god tribe everywhere. The other forces are cooperating with the evil god tribe. I heard that something happened to the ancestral dragon here, so I came to take a look. Xian Yinqing said. It's a pity that the evil god tribe has set up formations that can detect the aura of the heavenly realm at the 4 city gates. We can't enter at all. Otherwise, we could go in and ask for information. Lu Ming said helplessly. The entire city walls of the Yellow Springs Empire were set up with formations. They could not fly in directly. If they wanted to enter or leave, they had to enter through the 4 city gates. This is easy. I have a way to hide the aura of the heavenly realm on my body. Xian Yinqing said. You have a way to hide the aura of the heavenly realm on my body? Lu Ming was shocked and very surprised. It was easy to hide one's aura. However, the aura of the heavenly realm and the primordial realm was invisible and intangible. Usually, one could not sense it, but it was engraved in one's bones and soul. It was indelible. You are a creature of the heavenly realm and primordial realm, so you were born with the imprint of these 2 worlds. Xian Yinqing could actually hide it? On second thought, Lu Ming felt relieved. Xian Yinqing had devoured and merged with the memories of her previous life. Her background in her previous life was probably very shocking and unfathomable. It was normal for her to have all kinds of strange methods. Now you know how powerful I am. Xian Yinqing smiled. Then, her 10 fingers bloomed like lotus flowers. Strange patterns appeared and finally condensed into a black lotus flower. The black lotus flower flew toward Lu Ming and merged into Lu Ming's body. Done. Xian Yinqing said and then continued to form seals. A lotus flower also appeared on her body and disappeared in a flash. Chapter 2497. Alright, let's set off. Lu Ming said. He naturally would not doubt whether Xian Yinqing's method was useful or not. He trusted Xian Yinqing 100%. The 2 changed their appearances, restrained their auras, and flew toward the Yellow Spring Imperial Capital's city gates. Arriving at the city gates, looking at it from a close distance, they discovered that runes were inscribed on both sides of the city gates. This was the grand array set up by the evil god race. As long as a heaven realm or primordial realm life form entered, those runes would immediately react. On both sides of the city gates, there was a team of soldiers wearing battle armor standing guard. They're all heavenly emperors. Lu Ming sensed and discovered that these soldiers guarding the city gates were all heavenly emperor realm powerhouses. In addition, there were also some experts hiding near the city gates. Although they were very secretive, Lu Ming grasped the Tao of Sovereign, ruling over heaven and earth. His perception was extremely sharp and naturally sensed it very easily. They were all powerhouses, even peak heavenly emperors, and more than one. Regarding the Yellow Spring Empire's strength, Lu Ming was secretly alarmed. The entire Yellow Spring world's strength was definitely stronger than either the Heaven Realm or the Evil God Realm. In fact, even if the two sides joined forces, they could not compare to the Yellow Spring world. Fortunately, the people of the Yellow Spring world had been cursed for generations and found it difficult to leave Yellow Spring Mountain. Otherwise, the situation outside would have long changed. The two people swaggered into the Yellow Spring Imperial capital. In the Yellow Spring Imperial capital, there were people of all races, and there were also many humans. Naturally, no one paid attention to Lu Ming two people. Lu Ming two people walked around and did not discover any traces of the evil god race. They found someone to sound them out but did not obtain much useful information either. The two people simply found an inn to stay in. In the following 10 days, the two people appeared in various parts of the Yellow Spring Imperial capital, but did not obtain much useful information. On this day, the two people strolled around the largest market square in the Yellow Spring Imperial capital. In the Yellow Spring world, there were many treasures that did not exist outside. The two people also bought some along the way. That's the first prince. Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. In front, he saw a youth with a head full of golden hair. This youth was precisely the evil god race's number one on the 10,000 years list, the first prince. The third eye on the first prince's forehead was closed. He had a head full of golden hair and looked no different from a human. He was incomparably handsome, like a natural sun. Wherever he went, he would attract the attention of others. Around them, some young women kept looking at Prince Dai, their eyes shining. However, when they saw the woman beside the first prince, their gazes dimmed. It was an extremely beautiful woman. She wore a purple one-piece dress that accentuated her perfect figure. Compared to her, all the other women around her seemed to pale in comparison. Most importantly, this woman came from a huge family in the Yellow Spring Imperial capital, the Yellow Spring Empire's largest alchemist family, the O family. O Xing, the eldest daughter of the O clan, how could those girls dare to compare? The first prince and the eldest daughter of the O family, O Xing, had an intimate expression as they strolled through the streets and bought things together. Lu Ming pulled Xian Yinqing and followed the two from a distance. Since he had encountered the first prince, how could Lu Ming let him go so easily? The first prince had a high status in the evil god tribe and should know a lot of secrets. After the first prince and O Xing strolled around, they left the market and walked toward a bustling street. Soon, they entered a spacious mansion. Lu Ming and O Xing followed them in. With Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing's current cultivation, the first prince and O Xing would not be able to discover them. Behind the mansion, there was a huge courtyard. In the courtyard, there was a lake, and in the middle of the lake, there was a pavilion. The first prince and O Xing arrived at the pavilion. The first prince put his hand on O Xing's waist and chatted with her. Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing appeared not far away. Lu Ming waved his hand and the space cracked open. He and Xian Yinqing entered the spatial crack and appeared above the pavilion in the next moment. Lu Ming had comprehended the space-time law when he was a true emperor. Now that he had comprehended the Tao of Sovereign, his control of space had reached the point of perfection. The two of them were in the space above the pavilion. The first prince and O Xing did not notice them at all. Moreover, Lu Ming and the rest could clearly hear the conversation between the two of them. Xing, I heard that your family has the life-death pill. Is that true? The first prince asked. Of course it's true. My family is the #1 alchemy family in the Yellow Springs Empire. Xing smiled. Her tone was filled with pride. Is the life-death pill really as miraculous as the legends say? The first prince asked again. Of course. You should know that the Yellow Springs Empire's largest cursed land, Yellow Springs Island, has a tree of life. The tree of life will bear a kind of fruit after a long period of time. It is called the fruit of life. The fruit of life is miraculous. No matter how serious the injury is, it can heal it. It can even heal the injury of a god. As for the life and death pill, it was refined using the fruit of life. Before the 10,000 calamities, there were people from the outer world like you who brought out the fruit of life from Yellow Springs Island. My family was fortunate enough to obtain one and refined it into 9 life and death pills. Although the efficacy of the life-death pill is not as strong as the fruit of life, it is only useless for gods. For those below the god realm, no matter how serious the injury is, even if the life origin is damaged, one pill can heal it. After so many years of consumption, my family only has 3 pills left. Xing explained. Her pride was even stronger. Life-death pill. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with passion. The life-death pill was actually refined from the fruit of life. No matter how serious the injury was, one pill could heal it. It was the same even if the life origin was damaged. Lu Ming was tempted. An injury to the life origin was not an ordinary injury. Ordinary injuries were nothing to great emperors and heavenly emperors. Even if their bodies exploded, they could still heal it. However, an injury to the life origin was very difficult to heal. For many experts, if the battle was too fierce, their life origin would be injured. For example, the Titan longhorn beetle, 9 lives demonic silkworm, ancestral dragon, and other races' divine ancestors had injured their life origin. However, the life-death pill could heal these injuries quickly. If they could obtain the life-death pill, wouldn't the injuries of the Titan longhorn beetle and 9 lives demonic silkworm be healed quickly and return to their peak state? Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing continued to listen. It's so magical. Xing, I'm really curious. Can you let me take a look at the life-death pill? The first prince asked. Let you take a look? That won't do. If my father and ancestral dragon know about it, I won't be able to bear the consequences. Xing said. Xing, I'm just curious. I want to take a look and see it for myself. Just take a look and they won't know. Don't you trust me? The first prince said softly. Xing did not agree at first. However, after the first prince coaxed her, Xing finally agreed. She secretly took out the life-death pill and showed it to the first prince. Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing looked at each other. Their eyes lit up. Chapter 2498. The first prince and Xing agreed to meet here 3 days later. After that, they both left. Originally, Lu Ming had planned to take down the first prince and get some information, but now he changed his mind and decided to wait for 3 more days. He naturally had his eyes on the life and death pill. After the first prince and Xing left, Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing waited in the courtyard. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. 3 days later, night fell. The first prince had been waiting for a long time. In the middle of the night, a figure flew over. It was Xing. Xing, did you bring the life and death pill? The first prince quickly asked. I brought it, but I have to put it back quickly. If my father finds out, it won't be good. Xing said. Don't worry, I'll just take a look and broaden my horizons. The first prince smiled. Oh Xing nodded. Her hand moved and a jade bottle appeared in her palm. There were some inscriptions on the jade bottle. Oh Xing's fingers danced and runes flew toward the jade bottle. Then, the jade bottle emitted a radiance. After a while, the radiance dimmed. It's done. Oh Xing smiled and handed the jade bottle to the first prince. The first prince quickly took it and poured out a pill. It was a pill the size of a pigeon's egg. It was milky white and emitted a rich medicinal fragrance. Even Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing, who were hiding in the void, could smell it. Is this the life and death pill? The first prince whispered. He lowered his head and carefully sized it up. His eyes were filled with greed. After sizing it up for a while, the first prince put the life and death pill back into the jade bottle and handed it back to Oh Xing. He smiled and said, Xing, I'll return it to you. I'll return it now. Oh Xing smiled and reached out to take it. But at this moment, the first prince's palm glowed and like a sword, he attacked Oh Xing's dantian with lightning speed. At such a close distance and with the first prince's sneak attack, ordinary people wouldn't be able to avoid it. But at the moment the first prince attacked, Oh Xing's body glowed. A bright light spread out and turned into a set of armor that covered her body. At the same time, Oh Xing quickly retreated. Boom! The first prince's palm strike landed on Oh Xing's armor, but it was easily neutralized by the armor. Oh Xing retreated 100 meters and stood on the surface of the lake. Her face was extremely ugly. First, why? Why? Oh Xing roared, her face full of disappointment. So you were already prepared for me. The first prince's face was gloomy as he said coldly. Then, he raised the jade bottle in his hand and sneered, life or death pill. No matter how serious your injuries are, one pill can heal you. Each pill is equivalent to a life. Such a peerless pill can only be used by following me. Do you understand? You said that you would stay in the Yellow Springs realm and accompany me for the rest of your life. Was that all a lie? Oh Xing asked. Nonsense, I still have important things to do, why would I stay here? This place is nothing but a cursed place. The first prince sneered. Sigh, I was too naive. Oh Xing sighed and her disappointment deepened. Originally, I wanted to give you a chance. If you didn't attack me today, I would treat you wholeheartedly. I could even beg my father to give you a life or death pill in the future. Unfortunately, you have disappointed me. After Oh Xing finished speaking, her eyes suddenly burst out with cold killing intent as she waved her hand. Rip! Behind Oh Xing, the space suddenly split open and two figures appeared. They were two old men in black robes, exuding a terrifying aura. They were two heavenly emperors. One was a 3-star heavenly emperor, and the other was a 2-star heavenly emperor. Seeing the two of them, the first prince's face was gloomy as he said, Bitch, not only have you been guarding against me, you even secretly brought people here. Are you trying to kill me? Originally, I brought them here just in case. If you didn't do anything, they wouldn't have appeared. Unfortunately, you have disappointed me. Give me the life or death pill and I will leave your corpse intact. Oh Xing said coldly. Ha ha ha, bitch, do you think I didn't prepare for this? I have long been guarding against you. You don't trust me, and I have never trusted you. Come out. The first prince waved his hand. The void trembled, and suddenly, several figures appeared in the surrounding space. There were a total of 6 people, all of whom were from the evil god tribe. Moreover, all of them were heavenly emperors. There were even 2 4-star heavenly emperors among them. Seeing these people, Oh Xing's face became miserable. First prince, I was just joking with you. Look at our relationship, let me go. An ugly smile appeared on Oh Xing's face. Let you go? I don't want to be enemies with your Oh clan. Although your O clan doesn't have a martial god and I am not afraid of you, you are still troublesome. You can go in peace. I will use these 3 life or death pills well. Attack. The first prince sneered, his voice was ice-cold as he gave the order. Miss, leave quickly. Behind O Xing, the 2 old men brought O Xing and rushed in a direction. However, the 6 people from the evil god tribe also attacked. They sealed the heaven and earth, surrounded the 3 of them, and blasted out terrifying attacks. The difference in strength between the 2 sides was too great. The 2 old men brought by O Xing were not a match for them at all. They exploded as soon as they attacked. First bastard, you will die a horrible death. You will die a horrible death, O Xing cursed crazily. However, in the next moment, she was hit by the attacks of several heavenly emperors and instantly turned into ashes. Her body and soul were destroyed. In the void, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were speechless as they watched. However, this was equivalent to a dog biting another dog. Before this, the 2 of them would naturally not attack. After killing O Xing and the 2 experts of the O clan, the first prince was ecstatic. He took out the jade bottle again and poured out 3 pills in succession. All of them were life or death pills. The medicinal fragrance was incomparably rich. Ha ha ha, what a great harvest. Let's go, let's leave this place quickly. The first prince laughed heartily. Then, he put away the jade bottle and turned around to leave. However, after flying for a while, he discovered that the 6 people from the evil god tribe were still standing in the air, motionless. I told you to leave quickly. Didn't you hear me? The first prince turned around and said somewhat impatiently. However, when he turned around, his pupils suddenly widened. That was because the 6 people from the evil god tribe seemed to be fixed in the air, unable to move at all. Only their faces revealed frightened expressions. Who is it? The first prince's hair stood on end. He shouted loudly and hurriedly turned around to check. Old friends meeting, am I not welcome? A soft laugh rang out. The space cracked open, and Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing walked out. Lu Ming, why is it you? How did you come in here? The first prince's pupils rapidly widened. He roared loudly, revealing a look of disbelief. The gates of the Yellow Spring Empire's imperial capital were engraved with a formation that could detect the aura of the Heaven Realm. The living beings of the Heaven Realm could not enter the imperial capital at all. The first prince had never expected that he would meet Lu Ming here. Chapter 2500. Seeing Lu Ming, the Titan Longhorn Beetle and the others immediately flew toward him. Lu Ming, what's the situation now? Where are you? The Titan Longhorn Beetle asked. I'm currently in the Yellow Spring Empire's capital. Lu Ming said. Yellow Spring Empire's capital? How did you get in? The Titan Longhorn Beetle's eyes widened in astonishment. The others reacted the same way. This is all thanks to my wife. She used a secret technique to conceal the aura of the Heaven Realm. That's why I was able to enter. I've already found news about Senior Ancestral Dragon. Lu Ming said. How's Senior Ancestral Dragon? The Titan Longhorn Beetle, the 9 Lives Demonic Silkworm, and the others looked at Lu Ming nervously. They were afraid that something would happen to the Ancestral Dragon. Senior Ancestral Dragon isn't dead. He only escaped from the Yellow Spring Empire's capital with injuries. Lu Ming briefly explained what he knew. That's great. Everyone let out relieved sighs when they heard that the Ancestral Dragon was fine. I've also found out that the evil god tribe will send their experts to attack a cursed land. There should be experts from the Heaven Realm there. I'm afraid we'll have to fight them. Lu Ming said. Fight, we must fight them. Yeah, I'm going to kill those scum of the evil god tribe. The Titan Longhorn Beetle and the others yelled furiously. Seniors, Lu Ming has something for you. Lu Ming glanced at the Titan longhorn beetle and the 9 lives demonic silkworm as a jade jar appeared in his hand. Something for us? The Titan longhorn beetle and the 9 lives demonic silkworm were confused. This is a pill I've found from a herbalist family in the Yellow Spring Empire's capital. It's called the life-death pill. It has the effect of stealing the fortune of the heavens and earth. Anyone below the martial god realm will be healed regardless of how serious their injuries are, even if their life force is damaged. Lu Ming said. What? There's such a pill in this world? Everyone opened their mouths wide in astonishment. Lu Ming, how can we accept such a precious pill? Then, the 9 lives demonic silkworm shook its head. Seniors, the elixir is just an inanimate object. If it can't display its effects, it won't show its value. If the 2 seniors can recover to their peak, it will be a good thing for our heaven realm. Then, the life and death elixir will show its value. Lu Ming said. That's right, that's exactly the case. The others also nodded and persuaded the 2 of them to accept it. The Titan longhorn beetle and 9 lives demonic silkworm, once they recovered to their peak, they would be 2 peak heavenly emperors. There weren't many people in the entire heaven realm who could reach this step. Alright, Lu Ming, I, Old Bull, will remember your kindness. The Titan longhorn beetle was more straightforward and nodded in agreement. In fact, they were also very tempted. After all, it had been countless years since the ancient battle, yet they were still unable to return to their peak state. This feeling was truly unbearable. Lu Ming poured out 2 life and death elixirs and handed them to the Titan longhorn beetle and 9 lives demonic silkworm. The 2 of them received them, each chose a place, sat down cross-legged, swallowed the life and death elixir, and began to refine the elixir. As for Lu Ming, he left the small world and appeared beside Xian Yanqing, continuing to pay attention to that mansion. In the blink of an eye, a few days passed. Finally, there was some movement in the mansion. A group of Yellow Spring Empire powerhouses appeared and entered that mansion. After a while, a large group of people flew out of that mansion. There were evil god race and Yellow Spring Empire powerhouses. There were hundreds of them. They headed straight for the western city gate. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing followed far behind. Not long after, the evil god race and Yellow Spring Empire experts exited the city gate and headed west. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing also successfully exited the city gate and followed far behind. They didn't dare to get too close because there were too many experts in the evil god race and Yellow Spring Empire. There were even peak heavenly emperors, and it wasn't just 1 or 2, but at least 5 or 6. In addition, there were also quite a number of 6-star and 5-star heavenly emperors. This was an extremely shocking force. Mobilizing so many powerhouses at once, it was obvious that they wanted to capture all the living beings in that cursed land in one fell swoop, not leaving a single one alive. After flying for more than a day, they arrived at an extremely remote place. In front of them, there was a blazing aura. It turned out that there was a large group of volcanoes in front of them, and the end couldn't be seen at a glance. Rumble. Volcanoes erupted continuously, and magma soared into the sky. The air was filled with black smoke and a pungent smell. The cursed land was in the group of volcanoes. The Yellow Spring Empire's people couldn't enter, so they hid outside the volcanoes. As for the evil god race, they rushed into the group of volcanoes. Rumble. Not long after, a terrifying rumble erupted from the group of volcanoes. A great battle erupted. Terrifying energy pierced through the ground, and endless magma soared into the sky. This area became even hotter. Roar. In the depths of the volcano, a golden lion with 9 heads was incomparably huge. It stood indomitable and roared at the sky. The volcanoes in the surroundings exploded one after another in an incomparably ferocious manner. Big Brother Qing Tsang. Lu Ming's heart trembled. That was clearly the nine-headed golden lion, Qingcang. Qingcang was a peak heavenly emperor and was incomparably powerful. However, the evil god race also had peak heavenly emperors. In the group of volcanoes, one terrifying aura after another soared into the sky, colliding with each other. The heaven realm has 2 peak heavenly emperors, but the evil god race has 3. Lu Ming's heart became somewhat heavy. Peak heavenly emperors, the evil god race had 1 more. Moreover, Lu Ming could feel that the number of 5-star and 6-star heavenly emperors was also more than the evil god race. If this continued, the heaven realm side would definitely not be a match. In addition, the Yellow Spring Empire's powerhouses were lying in ambush outside the volcanoes. The number of powerhouses was even more than the evil god race. If the heaven realm's living beings rushed out, it would be truly dangerous. I wonder how Senior's Titan Longhorn Beetle and 9 Lives Demonic Silkworm have recovered. Lu Ming was somewhat anxious. If they were to make a move later, the number of powerhouses on their side would not be enough and they would be at a disadvantage. Lu Ming controlled the Divine 9 Dragons Cauldron and could be considered a peak heavenly emperor. Xian Yanqing could also be considered a peak heavenly emperor. Adding Zhanli, there were only 3 peak heavenly emperors. The number was not enough. Lu Ming could feel that in the Yellow Spring Empire, there were a total of 4 peak heavenly emperors. Adding the 3 from the evil god race, there were 7. In addition, there were also 6-star heavenly emperors. If the Titan Longhorn Beetle and 9 Lives Demonic Silkworm recovered, then there was no need to be afraid. Charge out! In the group of volcanoes, Qingcang's roar rang out. Then, a group of heaven realm powerhouses joined hands and rushed outside. Behind them, the evil god race people chased closely. Not good. Lu Ming's expression changed. Then, with a thought, he entered the small world. He wanted to see if the Titan Longhorn Beetle and 9 Lives Demonic Silkworm had recovered. At this moment, their bodies were filled with resplendent light, their auras extremely powerful. Peak Heavenly Emperor. Lu Ming could not help but be overjoyed when he sensed the auras of the 2. The life and death pill was indeed worthy of being a peerless divine medicine. Its medicinal effects were incomparably shocking. Chapter 25:01. At this moment, the situation outside was already quite critical. Qingcang and the others rushed out of the volcanoes and arrived at the periphery of the cursed land. But at this moment, the people of the Yellow Spring Empire appeared, blocking in front of Qingcang and the others. A terrifying aura was emitted, causing Qingcang and the others to change color and stop. Another 4 peak heavenly emperors, a total of 7 peak heavenly emperors. You guys really think highly of us. Qingcang sneered, his 9 heads looking around. Beside Qingcang, there was a phoenix flapping its wings, its entire body covered in black flames. This was a black phoenix, also a peak heavenly emperor, the current king of the heavenly realm's phoenix race. Ha, Qingcang, let's see how you die today. A loud laugh came from behind. The experts of the evil god race blocked Qingcang and the others' path of retreat, making it impossible for them to escape. Duolu, why aren't you guarding the eternal cage? Be careful not to let someone escape again. Qingcang sneered, full of ridicule. The evil god race member who spoke just now was Duolu. Hearing Qingcang's words, Duoli's eyes were extremely ferocious as he roared, Qingcang, so what if you escape from the eternal cage? You're still going to die in my hands. And that brat Lu Ming, I'll tear him into pieces sooner or later. Rush back to the cursed land. Qingcang secretly sent a voice transmission to the beings of the heavenly realm. Only by rushing back to the cursed land would they have a chance. Outside, they would have to face the double siege of the evil god race and the Yellow Spring Empire. It's too late. In the small world, Lu Ming was a little anxious. Then, he sent a voice transmission to the Titan Longhorn Beetle and the 9 Lives Demon Silkworm. "Senior, wake up! Senior, wake up!" Lu Ming kept sending voice transmissions. Boom! Boom! The auras of the Titan Longhorn Beetle and the 9 Lives Demon Silkworm suddenly soared and then rapidly contracted. Then, they opened their eyes. "Are we going to fight?" the Titan Longhorn Beetle asked. "That's right. The matter is urgent, so I can only disturb the 2 of you," Lu Ming said. "It's fine, I've almost recovered. Let's go out and fight." The Titan Longhorn Beetle. "Let's go." Lu Ming controlled the small world, and in the next moment, everyone in the small world appeared outside. At that moment, Qingcang and the others also made their moves. They charged straight for the evil god race behind them, wanting to charge back into the cursed lands. Kill. The experts of the evil god tribe and the Yellow Springs Empire also made their moves. Kill. At this moment, Lu Ming roared and his voice reverberated in all directions. He then charged toward the people from the Netherworld Empire. What happened? This happened too suddenly. The evil god race's people and the Yellow Spring Empire's people could not help feeling stunned. In this short period of time, they had already arrived. Lu Ming directly controlled the Divine 9 Dragon Cauldron and charged towards a Yellow Spring Empire's peak Heavenly Emperor. At the same time, Xian Yanqing also made his move, joining forces with Lu Ming to attack a person. The Titan Longhorn Beetle and the others also launched their attacks. On Lu Ming's side, there were a total of 5 peak Heavenly Emperors. Their sudden appearance caught the Yellow Springs Empire's side off guard. The peak Heavenly Emperor that was attacked by Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing was immediately sent flying, vomiting large mouthfuls of blood, suffering heavy injuries. The other Yellow Springs Empire powerhouses were also struck until they retreated repeatedly, suffering different degrees of minor injuries. Titan, 9 lives, it's you guys. Ha ha ha, kill. When Qingcang discovered the Titan Longhorn Beetle and the rest, he could not help being overjoyed. He turned around and was about to charge towards the Yellow Springs Empire's experts. However, after being stunned for a moment, Duo Lei and the rest also reacted and charged towards Qingcang and the rest. The scene fell into a chaotic battle. Both sides added up, the number of peak Heavenly Emperor powerhouses was the same, both 7. But just now, under Lu Ming and the rest's sneak attack, they injured one of the other party. With the number of peak Heavenly Emperors, they instead had the upper hand. A fierce chaotic battle erupted. Lu Ming's side instead occupied a slight upper hand. If not for the Yellow Springs Empire and the evil god race having more 6-star Heavenly Emperors, it would probably be one-sided. Lu Ming, damn it, damn it. Duo Lei roared angrily in his heart. It was Lu Ming again. Each time, his good deeds were ruined by Lu Ming. Lu Ming was simply his nemesis. He was unable to restrain his anger, wishing that he could grind Lu Ming's bones to dust. Want to kill me, then come. Lu Ming controlled the 9 divine 9 dragon cauldrons and bombarded them towards Duo Lei crazily. Duo Lei also erupted crazily, wanting to kill Lu Ming. The 2 people collided repeatedly, but it was hard to determine the victor. Ah! At this time, a miserable cry sounded out. A 6-star Heavenly Emperor of the evil god race was killed by Xian Yanqing with 1 sword. Lu Ming, the Titan Longhorn Beetle, and the rest all had an opponent, fighting fiercely with each other. But Xian Yanqing did not have a peak Heavenly Emperor to stop him. That peak Heavenly Emperor of the Yellow Spring Empire was seriously injured from the start. His strength was at most comparable to a 6-star Heavenly Emperor. There were 5 to 6 6-star Heavenly Emperors besieging Xian Yanqing. But Xian Yanqing's combat power exceeded their imaginations. He became braver and braver, his attacks strange and unpredictable. After several dozen moves, he successfully killed a 6-star heavenly emperor. Exterminate. Xian Yinqing said softly, black light as black as ink emitting from his entire body. This black light turned into one black lotus after another. Then, these lotus petals flew out again, forming pitch-black battle swords, slashing at the opponent. Opposite, 5 6-star heavenly emperors were flustered by Xian Yinqing's attacks, in imminent danger. Quickly come and help us. A 6-star heavenly emperor roared. But the current chaotic battle was intense. Every person had an opponent. How could they draw out such a powerhouse? Puwerk. Suddenly, another 6-star heavenly emperor had his glabella pierced by Xian Yinqing's sword light, dying on the spot. Ah, damn it! Duo Lu roared wildly, wanting to repel Lu Ming and attack Xian Yinqing. But Lu Ming controlled the divine 9-dragon cauldron, desperately clashing with him, blocking him firmly, making him have no energy left to attack Xian Yinqing. Gather, gather together. A peak heavenly emperor of the Yellow Spring Empire roared. At this moment, they were at a disadvantage and had to gather strength to defend. All of the evil god race and Yellow Spring Empire's people began to gather, getting close to each other, entering a defensive state. Lu Ming and the rest originally only had the upper hand with a slight advantage. Now that the other party intended to defend, they could not take down the other party. Very soon, the evil god race and Yellow Spring Empire's people all gathered together, forming an iron-like defensive formation, blocking the attacks of Lu Ming and the rest, finally stabilizing the situation. Both sides fought for a while and separated into 2 camps, confronting each other. They all knew that if there were no accidents today, no one would be able to do anything to the other. However, Lu Ming and the rest's goal of saving people had already been achieved. The expressions of Duo Lu and the rest were ugly. Today, they failed to kill people and instead lost several 6-star heavenly emperors. It was truly a huge loss. When my race's sacred ancestor recovers, you all will die, go. An evil god race peak heavenly emperor said coldly. Then, the evil god race and Yellow Spring Empire retreated unwillingly. Chapter 2502. The people of the evil god race and the Yellow Spring Empire disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. Ha, Lu Ming, amazing. Qing Tsang laughed loudly and looked at Lu Ming. His eyes were filled with gratitude and deep shock. He remembered that when he first met Lu Ming's strength was barely enough to deal with the weakest 1-star heavenly emperor. But Lu Ming was actually able to fight with a peak heavenly emperor. Although he had the 9-dragon cauldron, it was still incomparably shocking. It had only been a few decades. A few decades was just a blink of an eye to them. He had lived for a long time and had never seen such a stunning figure like Lu Ming. This is, as he spoke, Qing Tsang's gaze turned to Xian Yinqing. Beside him, the Black Phoenix had also transformed into a human form. It was a middle-aged woman with a beautiful figure. At this moment, she was also looking at Xian Yinqing. Xian Yinqing was very young, but his combat strength was actually incomparably powerful. He was a figure whose combat strength had truly reached the peak of the Heavenly Emperor realm. The key was that they did not know him, so they were naturally curious. This is my wife. Lu Ming held Xian Yinqing's small hand and said. Your wife, Qing Tsang, Black Phoenix, and the rest were all shocked. May I ask, how many years has it been since sister-in-law started cultivating? Qing Tsang asked curiously. Little Qing is about the same age as me. Lu Ming said with a smile. This, Qing Tsang, Black Phoenix, and the rest looked at each other in dismay. They were completely dumbfounded. Sigh, I'm old. I thought that my talent wasn't bad, but compared to you two, I'm simply trash. Qing Tsang sighed, looking like he had suffered a huge blow. Lu Ming rubbed his nose and smiled bitterly. Old lion, aren't you looking for a beating by comparing yourself to Lu Ming and the rest? The Titan longhorn beetle laughed. Ha ha ha, that's true. Qing Tsang laughed. After chatting for a while, they left the place. They were afraid that the other party would send more powerful cultivators. After leaving, they chatted as they walked. Qing Tsang and the others also learned about the ancestral dragon. Where did senior ancestral dragon go? That's right. At this rate, the outsider sacred patriarch is going to enter the cursed lands. If he gets the fruits of life, we'll be finished. The Titan longhorn beetle and the others sighed. The Titan longhorn beetle and the 9 lives demonic silkworm had consumed the life and death pill before and knew the effects of the life and death pill. The life and death pill was made from the fruit of life. If the outsider's sacred ancestor obtained the fruit of life, he might be able to fully recover from his injuries. Especially Saint Ancestor Sha Xian. If even he had recovered from his injuries, they would have no hope at all. Everyone was worried but also helpless. With their strength, there was no way they could compete with the other party. After that, they planned to enter some cities to scout for information. If the outsider's sacred ancestor was going to enter the cursed lands, there should be news about it. Not long after, they came to a big city. The others entered Lu Ming's small world, while Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing used a secret technique to enter the big city. After that, the two stayed in the big city, cultivating and scouting for information. In the blink of an eye, half a month passed. On this day, they heard a piece of news that made them furious. In the Yellow Spring Imperial capital, the evil god tribe released news that they had captured some heaven realm beings and tied them up outside the eastern city gate of the Yellow Spring Imperial capital. 3 months later, they would kill all of them. The news spread like a whirlwind in all directions. When Lu Ming told the Titan longhorn beetle and the others about this news, they were also furious. Kill our way over and save those people. The Titan longhorn beetle had the worst temper and roared. Don't act rashly. The evil god tribe is doing this to lure us over so that they can catch us all in one fell swoop. This is definitely a trap. The 9 lives demonic silkworm said. Are we just going to watch those people die for nothing? What if your family and friends are among those people? The Titan longhorn beetle glared. I mean, we can't act rashly. We have to think of a foolproof plan. The 9 lives demonic silkworm said. Let's go and observe the situation first. Lu Ming said. I think so too. Let's go and observe first before making a decision. Even if we want to take action, we have to gather more people. The 9 lives demonic silkworm said. After that, the others still stayed in Lu Ming's small world. Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing changed their appearances and headed toward the Yellow Spring Imperial capital. Soon, they arrived at the eastern city gate of the Yellow Spring Imperial capital. They looked forward from a mountain peak outside the eastern city gate. Outside the eastern city gate of the Yellow Spring Imperial capital, there were indeed some people tied up there. All of them looked haggard and their auras were weak. There were a lot of them, close to 200 people. Long Chen, Huang Ling, Ouyang Wushuang, among those people, Lu Ming saw Long Chen, Huang Ling, and Ouyang Wushuang. Damn it! Lu Ming panicked. These were all his best friends. Among the crowd, Lu Ming even saw Yuan Xian, the son of destiny. However, he could not control his own destiny now and was tied up by someone. In addition, Lu Ming had also met some of the older generation figures. I have to save them. Lu Ming's eyes flickered with determination. However, he could not act rashly. Lu Ming speculated that there were terrifying experts hiding near the eastern city gate. Even a martial god like the sacred ancestor of a foreign tribe might be nearby. If he were to rush out recklessly, he would only be digging his own grave. What should we do? Lu Ming panicked. There were only 3 months left. 3 months later, Long Chen, Huang Ling, and the others would be killed. Lu Ming, don't panic, calm down. Xian Yinqing held Lu Ming's hand. Lu Ming slowly calmed down. Over the next few days, the two observed the surroundings while trying to come up with a plan. However, the difference in strength was too great. They were struggling to come up with a plan. Lu Ming. At this moment, a voice traveled into Lu Ming's ears. Lu Ming's figure shuddered when he heard the voice. The voice belonged to the ancestral dragon. As he thought, a figure walked out from a mountain nearby. Who else could it be but the ancestral dragon? The ancestral dragon stepped forward and arrived beside Lu Ming and the others. Senior ancestral dragon, I'm glad you're fine. Lu Ming was overjoyed. They had a chance now that the ancestral dragon had shown up. I was injured in the Yellow Spring Kingdom, but it's nothing serious. The ancestral dragon said. Senior ancestral dragon, what should we do now? Lu Ming asked. We'll leave first. I'll leave some people here to guard this place. If anyone from the heaven realm comes, ask them to meet up with us. We'll gather our men first and figure out a way to save them. The ancestral dragon said. He then left the place with Lu Ming and the others and arrived at a hidden place a million li away. Lu Ming saw many familiar faces from the heaven realm. For example, the 5 elements Qilins. They waited patiently. Chapter 2503. Ancestral Gragon had left some people outside the Yellow Springs Empire. During this period of time, as long as the living beings in the heavenly world heard the news, they would most likely head to the Yellow Springs Empire to investigate. This way, they would be able to provide support. On the 3rd day, Lu Ming saw Dandan. After not seeing Dandan for some time, Dandan's cultivation had also risen by a lot, reaching the 4-star Heavenly Emperor realm. Lu Ming chatted with Dandan for a while and knew that this guy had also encountered some fortuitous encounters. On the 5th day, Bubble arrived. Now, Bubble's cultivation had also reached the peak of the Emperor realm, only a step away from the Heavenly Emperor realm. On the 6th day, Xiang Xiang and Ouyang Moli came together, making Lu Ming overjoyed. Xiang Xiang and Ouyang Moli's cultivation had both stepped into the Emperor realm. Lu Ming finally heaved a sigh of relief. Xiang Xiang and the others were fine. Lu Ming was relieved. As time passed, more and more people gathered at the same place. However, Lu Ming still couldn't think of an effective method. On this day, Lu Ming found Ancestral Gragon. Senior, I have a foreign race's genius in my hands. He's the son of the foreign race's king, known as the strongest genius in the history of the evil god tribe. Perhaps we can use him to exchange. Lu Ming said. The first prince was still in Lu Ming's hands and had been kept in the pocket world. He didn't kill the first prince because he thought that he might be useful in the future. The first prince's identity was no small matter. Perhaps he could exchange for Huang Ling, Long Chen, and the others. I'm afraid it'll be difficult. Ancestral Gragon frowned and said, although the first prince is important, in the eyes of the foreign race's divine ancestor, the most important person is still you. Once you appear, I'm afraid the foreign race's divine ancestor will kill you directly. He won't care about any foreign race's genius. Lu Ming frowned. He cultivated the sovereign Tao, and the foreign race's divine ancestor seemed to know him. Perhaps he really didn't care about the first prince's life and wanted to kill him. Senior, do you have a good plan? Lu Ming asked. Now, whether it's to save them or to fight against the outsider's sacred ancestor, there's only one way, and that's the Yellow Spring sect. Ancestral Dragon said. Netherworld sect? Lu Ming was puzzled. That's right. The Netherworld sect is an extremely secretive sect in the Netherworld world. They don't care about worldly affairs and only focus on cultivation. Very few people in the Netherworld world know about it. I stayed in the Netherworld imperial capital for a period of time and learned about it from some ancient books. It said that the Netherworld sect and the Netherworld Empire were of the same origin. However, some people were obsessed with worldly power and established the Netherworld Empire. Some people didn't like worldly power, so they lived in seclusion and established the Netherworld sect. Ancestral Gragon explained. Is the Netherworld sect very strong? Lu Ming asked. Strong, of course they're strong. Although they don't have as many people as the Yellow Spring Empire, their combat power isn't any weaker than the Yellow Spring Empire. As far as I know, the Netherworld Empire has 2 martial gods, but the Netherworld sect also has 2 martial gods. Ancestral Dragon said. 2 martial gods. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. Disregarding everything else, just the 2 martial gods were already shocking enough. As long as we can obtain the support of the Netherworld sect, not only can we save people, but we can also fight against the foreign tribe's divine ancestor. Ancestral Dragon said. Then, he sighed and said, if we can't obtain the support of the Netherworld sect, then we can only do it ourselves. Lu Ming nodded. Time passed day by day. A month had passed since the 3 months given by the evil god tribe. At this time, more than 500 people had gathered in the heavenly world. Ancestral Dragon was also preparing to depart for the Netherworld sect. However, he didn't bring that many people with him. Ancestral Dragon only brought 10 people, including Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, the Titan Longhorn Beetle, and the 9 Lives demonic silkworm, to the Netherworld sect. The Netherworld sect was located in the extreme north of the Netherworld world. It was almost at the edge of the Netherworld world. Ancestral Dragon brought them to a mountain range. There were many mountains here, and there were countless peaks. Soon, they arrived in front of a tall mountain. At the foot of the mountain, there was a huge stone tablet. The stone tablet was simple and unadorned, and it was even covered with moss. In the middle, there was a huge, yellow word. There was no one at the mountain gate. Was this the Netherworld sect? Everyone was puzzled. But since they were already here, they could only continue forward. They didn't fly. Instead, they walked up the stairs of the mountain. When they passed by the stone tablet, Lu Ming looked at it curiously and felt that it was a little familiar. Soon, they arrived halfway up the mountain. Suddenly, the space shook, and 4 figures appeared in front of them, blocking Lu Ming and the others. Halt, this is the Netherworld sect. A middle-aged man said. Everyone, we would like to see your sect leader. Ancestral Dragon stepped forward and cupped his fists. Everyone, our sect leader will not see any guests. Please go back. The middle-aged man waved his hand coldly. How do you know he won't see you when we haven't even seen him? We have important matters to discuss with your sect leader. The Titan Longhorn Beetle said loudly. Everyone, please go back. The middle-aged man continued to speak, but his voice was cold, and the intention to drive the guests away was obvious. You didn't even listen to our intentions and you're already chasing us away. What do you mean? The Titan Longhorn Beetle shouted unhappily, and a powerful aura erupted from its body. Boom! Boom! Just as the Titan Longhorn Beetle's aura erupted, the 4 people in front of them also erupted with powerful auras. 3 6-star Heavenly Emperors, 1 Peak Heavenly Emperor. The expressions of Lu Ming and the others changed slightly. The cultivation of the 4 people in front of them was already extremely shocking. Not only that, but on the mountain peak, there were also shocking auras, like terrifying waves of air, pressing down on this side. Lu Ming felt that there were no less than 10 Peak Heavenly Emperor auras. There were even a few auras that were extremely shocking, even above Peak Heavenly Emperor. Nest, so many experts, and those invincible figures who are half a step into the martial god realm. The Titan Longhorn Beetle grinned, some shock in its eyes. This netherworld sect was indeed terrifying. The Titan longhorn beetle only released its aura, and it was like poking a hornet's nest, poking out a bunch of experts. Perhaps, this was only a part of it. In the dark, who knew how many experts there were? Everyone, don't be impatient. We have no ill intentions, we are just here to seek cooperation. Ancestral Gragon stepped forward and said, then looked at the peak of the mountain, and a voice sounded, fellow Taoists, I have something to ask for an audience. Ancestral Gragon's voice came from afar, and at the same time, his body emitted a strange aura. Fellow Taoist, why have you come to the Netherworld sect? At this time, an old voice came from the peak of the mountain. Following that, a light flashed, and a figure appeared in front of everyone. This was an old man with an immortal aura, his white hair fluttering in the wind. Greetings, Sect Master. When the people of the Netherworld sect saw this old man, they bowed respectfully. Lu Ming and the others felt a chill in their hearts, knowing that this old man was a martial god realm existence. The two sect masters of the Netherworld sect were both martial god realm existences. Fellow Taoist, we came here this time to cooperate with you. Ancestral Gragon said. Cooperation? Chapter 2504. Lu Ming and the others did not interrupt the conversation between the old white-haired man and the ancestral Gragon. The Titan Heavenly Bull kept quiet too. The old man was a martial god. Only the ancestral Gragon, who was also a martial god, was qualified to talk to him. Otherwise, if the ancestral Gragon was not around, the old man would not even bother to meet them. That's right, let's work together. Help us enter the Yellow Spring Island and we'll split the loot 50-50. It's beneficial to everyone. What do you think? The ancestral Gragon said. The Yellow Spring Island? The old white-haired man was startled. He let out a sigh and said, it seems like you're from the outer world. Time really flies. The tribulation has passed so quickly. The old white-haired man's voice was filled with complicated emotions. The old white-haired man seemed to have recalled something. After a while, he said, you should leave. The Yellow Spring sect isn't interested in the Yellow Spring Island. Not interested? The ancestral Gragon's eyes glittered. Lu Ming and the others were startled too. Were they going to fail? Cultivator, how about this? If you do us a favor, you'll take all the loot we find after we enter the Yellow Spring Island. What do you think? The ancestral Gragon was not willing to give up. I told you, I'm not interested. See them out. The old white-haired man waved his sleeves and left. Everyone, please. The middle-aged man waved his hand. Lu Ming and the others wore unpleasant looks. They did not expect the people of the Yellow Spring sect to be so uninterested in the loot on the Yellow Spring Island. How were they going to fight the Yellow Spring Empire and the sacred ancestor of the foreign tribes if they could not ask the people of the Yellow Spring sect for help? The Titan Heavenly Bull and the others were anxious, but there was nothing they could do. Sigh, let's go. The ancestral Gragon felt helpless too. He turned around and headed down the mountain. They soon arrived at the foot of the mountain. It's fine if you don't want to help. We'll just have to save them ourselves. It's just death. The Titan Heavenly Bull cursed. He was extremely displeased. However, Lu Ming stopped and continued to observe the boulder at the entrance of the Yellow Spring sect. The more he looked at it, the more familiar he found the boulder to be. That's right, that token. Suddenly, Lu Ming thought of that token. With a thought, a token appeared in Lu Ming's hand. This token belonged to the core area of the Void Sacred Island. He and Dandan had worked together to obtain the token. This token looked very similar to the stone tablet in front of the Netherworld sect. Previously, the stone tablet was covered in moss, and Lu Ming only felt that it looked familiar. Now that he looked at it carefully, Lu Ming remembered. Wang. Just as Lu Ming took out the token, the stone tablet in front of the Netherworld Sex Gate suddenly vibrated, and the word, yellow, suddenly emitted a dazzling radiance. At the same time, the token in Lu Ming's hand began to vibrate, and light constantly flowed out of it. In the next moment, Lu Ming was shocked to find that a word had appeared in the middle of the token. It was the word, yellow. Lu Ming was shocked. He had studied the token since he had obtained it, but he had not discovered anything. There was no word in the middle of the token. However, at that moment, the character, Huang, had suddenly appeared. With that, the title plate and the stele looked exactly the same. Ancestral Dragon, 9 Lives Demon Silkworm, Titan Heavenly Bull, and the others were also shocked. They did not understand what was going on. At this moment, a figure flashed, and the white-haired old man appeared again. He looked at the token in Lu Ming's hand in surprise, then looked at Lu Ming and said, "The Yellow Spring Token. Why do you have the Yellow Spring Token? How did you get it?" The Yellow Spring Token? Lu Ming's heart moved. It turned out that this token was called the Yellow Spring Token. "Senior, this token was obtained by me on a Void Divine Island," Lu Ming said. "Void Sacred Island?" The white-haired old man was puzzled. "Tell me, who is the person who left you this token? What does he look like?" Immediately, Lu Ming described the appearance of the statue on the Void Sacred Island to her. "So it's him, so it's him. It's the will of the heavens." The white-haired old man sighed, then looked at Lu Ming and said, "In the past, our Yellow Spring sect was indebted to that person. We gave him this token and promised that if someone came to our Yellow Spring sect with this token, our Yellow Spring sect would help him unconditionally once." What? Lu Ming, Ancestral Dragon, and the others were overjoyed. Help unconditionally once? Didn't that mean they could ask the Yellow Spring sect for help? "What's your name?" the white-haired old man asked. "This junior is Lu Ming." Lu Ming said. Lu Ming, if you have any requests, just say it." The white-haired old man said. "Senior, it's like this." Immediately, Lu Ming briefly recounted the feud between the Heaven Realm and the Evil God tribe. He then talked about the situation here. "This junior earnestly requests the seniors of the Yellow Spring sect to help us fight against the Yellow Spring Empire and enter the Yellow Spring Island." Lu Ming stated his request. "I'm afraid it's difficult for us to enter the Yellow Spring Island on our own," the white-haired old man said. What's going on?" Lu Ming was surprised. "I bet you don't know that the entrance to the Yellow Spring Island is guarded by a group of puppets. Among them, there are 4 puppets whose strength is equivalent to the martial god realm. Therefore, it's impossible for us to enter the island on our own," the white-haired old man said. "For martial god realm puppets?" Lu Ming, Ancestral Dragon, the Titan Longhorn, and the others exchanged glances with one another. The Yellow Spring Island was too terrifying. There were 4 martial god realm puppets guarding the entrance. Those were martial gods. After all, there were only 2 martial gods in the Evil God realm and the Heaven realm, and both of them were injured. Lu Ming finally understood why the sacred ancestor of the foreign tribes had not entered the Yellow Spring Island. It was because he could not enter the island. Therefore, if we want to enter the Yellow Spring Island, we must cooperate with the Yellow Spring Empire," the white-haired old man said. "Cooperate?" Lu Ming and the others fell into deep thought. "Senior, please lend us a hand. We need to save the people," Lu Ming said. "Sure, I'll gather the men and set off," the white-haired old man said. He then turned around and disappeared into the Yellow Spring sect. "Brother Lu Ming, that's impressive." Qing Tsang and the others were overjoyed. They did not expect to encounter so many obstacles, and in the end, they managed to get the help of the Yellow Spring sect with Lu Ming's badge. Lu Ming exclaimed in his heart. The world was indeed full of surprises. He hadn't expected that the token he'd obtained on the Void Sacred Island would be of such great use in the Yellow Springs realm. The badge alone could easily turn the tide of the battle. Not long after, a large number of experts flew out from the Yellow Springs sect. Beside the white-haired old man was a white-haired old woman. She was also a martial god. Chapter 2505. The Yellow Springs Empire's sacred ancestor, the Emperor of the Yellow Springs Empire, and a Grand Elder were in a discussion in the Golden Imperial Palace. "Your Majesty, is there really no way to enter the Yellow Spring Island?" The sacred ancestor said. "There are 4 martial god realm puppets at the entrance of the Yellow Spring Island. We won't be able to do it on our own. We can only work with the Yellow Springs sect. However, the 2 old men of the Yellow Springs sect are stubborn. Besides, they have a conflict with us. Even if we ask them, I'm afraid they won't agree to it." The Emperor of the Yellow Spring Empire said. "Either way, we have to give it a try. How about this, once I've dealt with the ancestral dragon and the others, I'll pay the Yellow Spring sect a visit and see if I can ask them to help us." The sacred ancestor said. They chatted for a while before the sacred ancestor took his leave. Lu Ming and the others set off. They regrouped with the people of the Heaven Realm and made their way to the Yellow Spring Empire's capital. The Yellow Spring Empire's capital, outside the eastern city gate. Long Chen, Huang Ling, and around 200 people had been tied up outside the city gate for more than a month. "It's been more than a month, yet no one has come to save you. It seems like the people of the Heaven Realm have given up on you, ha ha ha." Duol stood above Long Chen and the others and mocked them coldly. Long Chen and the others wore cold looks. They did not respond. "Let me tell you, there is no hope for the Heaven Realm. You have been completely defeated. This time, in the Yellow Springs world, my clan will kill all your experts. Then, when we get out, we will flatten the Heaven Realm and kill every single one of you," Duol said ferociously. "Duol, do you only know how to talk big now?" At this moment, a mocking voice sounded. "Who's there?" Duol turned around and glanced in the direction of the voice coldly. "It's me," the voice said. Following it, the rift rippled as a figure suddenly appeared. The person was none other than Lu Ming. However, he was the only one who had shown himself. Lu Ming. Duol's eyes flickered with icy murderous intent when he saw Lu Ming. Buzz. Buzz. The void trembled and cracked open. From the spatial crack, one figure after another stepped out. They were all experts of the evil god race and the Yellow Spring Empire. There were no less than 10 peak heavenly emperors, and their terrifying auras completely enveloped Lu Ming. When they saw Lu Ming, Long Chen, Huang Ling, and the others' expressions changed drastically. "Lu Ming, leave now. Leave now." Huang Ling, Long Chen, and the others shouted. "Leave? Where to?" "Lu Ming, you're alone. How dare you come here? You're really stupid. Stay here then." Duol sneered. "Really? Look who this is." Lu Ming smiled faintly. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the air. A figure suddenly appeared in Lu Ming's hand. First Prince. Seeing this person, Duo Lu and the others paled. "Lu Ming, release the First Prince now," Duol anxiously roared. He had never imagined that the First Prince would be in Lu Ming's hands. "If you want me to let him go, that's fine, but you have to let him go first," Lu Ming said. "Fine. We'll let one go, and you let one go," Duo Lu said. "Ha ha ha, what a joke. You let one go? You let all of them go, and I'll use the First Prince to exchange for everyone. Do you understand?" Lu Ming laughed. "Let all of them go? Impossible. Don't even think about it," Duo Lu roared. If you don't let him go, he'll die. Lu Ming said coldly, cold killing intent radiating from his body. The expressions of Duo Lu and the others turned unsightly. For a moment, they were hesitant. The first prince's identity was no small matter. He was the son of the king of the first royal race. His talent was peerless, and his bloodline was the closest to the non-human's divine ancestor. He was said to have the strongest talent in the history of the evil god race. If he died, they would not be able to bear the consequences. Let him go or not? Lu Ming said coldly. This was their plan. Lu Ming would use the first prince to exchange for Long Chen and the others. If the exchange was successful, it would naturally be for the best as there would be no risk. After all, if they made a move, the situation would be chaotic. Long Chen, Huang Ling, and the others would not be able to fight back. There was still a risk. Duo Lu and the other evil god race powerhouses were all hesitant. For a moment, the situation was somewhat in a stalemate. Boom! Right at this moment, the sky split open. A terrifying palm reached out, blasting toward Lu Ming. The power of this palm was boundlessly terrifying, giving people a feeling that it was difficult to resist. Even a peak heavenly emperor would also turn to ashes under this palm. Martial God. Very clearly, the non-human's divine ancestor had made a move, wanting to kill Lu Ming. Even the first prince was enveloped within. Roar! A dragon roar shook heaven and earth. A huge dragon claw formed, grabbing at that giant hand. With a shocking boom, the giant hand collapsed, and the dragon claw also retracted. In the next moment, a figure appeared beside Duo Lu. This figure had a head of long golden hair. It was the non-human's divine ancestor. And beside Lu Ming, Ancestral Gragon's figure also appeared. Ancestral Gragon, you really came. The non-human's divine ancestor said coldly. His golden hair fluttered in the wind, full of dignity. Mo Ku, you're really ruthless. In order to kill Lu Ming, you don't even care about the life and death of your descendants? Ancestral Gragon said. Anyway, his cultivation has already been crippled. A piece of trash, it's fine to kill him. The non-human's divine ancestor said coldly. Hee Mo Ku, you're still as cold and heartless as before. Ancestral Gragon sneered. Ancestral Gragon, I expected you to appear. You people of the heaven realm are all here. Today, you will stay here forever. The non-human's divine ancestor said coldly. A terrifying aura burst out. Buzz buzz, the space shook. Suddenly, two figures appeared beside the non-human's divine ancestor. One was the Yellow Spring Empire's emperor, and the other was the Yellow Spring Empire's supreme elder. Two martial gods from the Yellow Spring Empire had shown up. Mo Ku, do you think I'll come unprepared? Ancestral Gragon sneered, his face calm. In the next moment, two figures suddenly appeared beside Lu Ming. They were the two martial gods of the Yellow Spring sect. It's you. The Yellow Spring Empire's emperor opened his eyes wide in shock when he saw the two martial gods of the Yellow Spring sect. Who would have thought that the two of you wouldn't care about the affairs of the world? Who would have thought that you would show up? The Yellow Spring Empire's emperor said mockingly. We don't need you to interfere. Long Yen, let them go. The white-haired old man of the Yellow Spring sect said. Long Yen was the name of the Yellow Spring Empire's emperor. It's not that easy to let them go. The non-human's divine ancestor said. His face was dark. Long Yen had once said that the two martial gods of the Yellow Spring sect were stubborn old men who did not care about the affairs of the world. He did not expect them to be with Lu Ming and the others. This meant that he had lost his advantage. It would be strange if he was in a good mood. He was so angry that he almost vomited blood. The advantage that he had spent so much effort to gain was gone just like that. Mo Ku, it seems like you want to fight. Chapter 2506. 6 martial gods appeared outside the eastern gate of the Yellow Spring imperial capital. The 6 martial gods faced each other, emitting terrifying energy fluctuations. Their auras spread between heaven and earth, shrouding the entire Yellow Spring imperial capital. Everyone in the Yellow Spring imperial capital felt as if a huge rock was pressing down on their hearts. It was so uncomfortable that they felt like vomiting blood. The auras of the 6 martial gods were too terrifying. If they fought, it would be earth-shattering. The atmosphere was extremely tense. How about this? The Yellow Spring Empire's emperor, Long Yen, spoke. He looked at the white-haired old man and said, "Old Huang, if you agree to join forces with us to break through the puppets outside Yellow Spring Island and help them enter the island, we can let them go." Long Yen still wanted to let the Divine Ancestor and the others enter Yellow Spring Island because they had already agreed on the terms. If the Divine Ancestor and the others obtained treasures from Yellow Spring Island, they would split it 50-50. They could not enter Yellow Spring Island by themselves. If they missed this opportunity, they would have to wait for another 10,000 years. The Divine Ancestor's eyes flickered, but he did not speak. He also wanted to enter Yellow Spring Island. "Lu Ming, what do you say?" The white-haired old man looked at Lu Ming. The Divine Ancestor, Long Yen, and the others were shocked. The white-haired old man, a martial god, was asking for Lu Ming's opinion. What was their relationship with Lu Ming? "Agree to their terms, but we have to enter Yellow Spring Island together," Lu Ming said. This was the only way to save Long Chen and the others. "Alright, we'll join forces, but they have to enter Yellow Spring Island together." The white-haired old man pointed at Ancestral Gragon, Lu Ming, and the others. "Alright, it's settled then." The Divine Ancestor, Long Yen, and the others pondered for a moment before nodding in agreement. Although they did not want Lu Ming and the others to enter Yellow Spring Island, they would not be able to enter without the white-haired old man's help. Now, they had to enter Yellow Spring Island first. Once they entered, they would have to rely on their own strength. "Once I get the fruit of life, Sha Xian and I will recover from our injuries. Let's see how you'll die then." The Divine Ancestor thought to himself. "Release them," Long Yen ordered. Immediately, someone unsealed Long Chen, Huang Ling, and the others, allowing them to regain their freedom. "Lu Ming, you've saved me again." Long Chen came to Lu Ming's side and sighed. "Lu Ming." Huang Ling smiled sweetly and came to Lu Ming's side. "It's good that you're fine," Lu Ming said with a smile. After chatting for a bit, Lu Ming learned that Long Chen and the others had been exploring some cursed lands. When they came out, they were surrounded. "Elder Huang, when do we make our move?" Long Yen looked at the white-haired elder. 1 year later. The white-haired old man said. This was the time set by Lu Ming and the others. They needed time to gather the people from the other heaven realms. Only when more people entered Yellow Spring Island would there be a greater chance of obtaining an opportunity. "Alright, then let's meet here a year from now," said Long Yen. As soon as he finished speaking, they returned to Yellow Spring Imperial Capital. Lu Ming and the others also left. Then, they met up with the Titan Longhorn Beetle and the others and came to a famous mountain. This famous mountain was extremely famous in the Yellow Spring world. One only needed to inquire a little to know about it. Then, they spread the news and gathered the people of the Heaven Realm here. At the same time, Ancestral Dragon and some experts personally went to some cursed lands to search for the people of the Heaven Realm. At the same time, the Evil God race also spread the news and gathered the scattered members of the Evil God race to the Yellow Spring Imperial Capital. For a time, the scattered Evil God race and the living beings of the Heaven Realm gathered in these two places. Time passed very quickly. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed. The living beings of the heaven realm had basically all gathered here. Those who did not come were most likely dead. Lu Ming did a rough calculation. There were only slightly more than 1,000 people gathered here. When they first entered, there were thousands of people. The number had decreased by half. It could be seen how many people had died. Once the time was up, they set off for the Yellow Spring imperial capital. When they arrived, thousands of people had already gathered outside the eastern city gate of the Yellow Spring imperial capital. There were experts from the evil god race and the Yellow Spring Empire. Let's go. The two sides gathered. Long Yen took the lead and headed in one direction. Yellow Spring Island was not in the Yellow Spring imperial capital, but to the south of it. After flying for a few hours, a deep abyss appeared in front of them. This abyss was incomparably wide. It was unknown how long it was, and it was unfathomable. Rumble. Rumbling sounds of water could be heard from the bottom of the abyss. Everyone looked from the side and saw that the bottom of the abyss was yellow water. Yellow spring water. Everyone was shocked. Could it be that the Yellow Spring water flowed here? Yellow Spring Island is opposite this abyss. However, no living being can cross this abyss. No living being can fly over it. If they try to forcefully fly over, they will fall into the abyss. If you want to pass through this abyss, you can only pass through the bridge in front. Long Yen said. Everyone flew along the abyss for a while and saw a stone bridge. The stone bridge was very large and wide, leading to the other side of the abyss. However, when they approached, light flickered in the vicinity of the stone bridge, and one figure after another appeared. Puppets. However, these puppets were in human form. They were wearing blood-red armor. Their eyes were filled with a bloody glow. So these are the formation puppets? Lu Ming murmured. Previously, he had learned from the white-haired old man and the others that the puppets formed by the stone bridge were formation puppets. They were formed by the formation. Even if they were killed or destroyed, they would reappear after some time. Trespassers, die. A huge puppet shouted, its aura shaking the heavens and the earth. Martial God Realm. The puppet was in the Martial God Realm. It was extremely terrifying. There were 3 other puppets that were on par with the puppet. There were a total of 4 Martial God Realm puppets. Apart from these 4, there were over 100 other puppets. They were all in the Heaven Emperor realm or above. Everyone had a serious expression on their faces. According to the plan, the 4 of us will each hold back a Martial God Realm puppet. The 2 of you are not in your peak condition, so help one of us to kill one of the puppets, and then help the others. Long Yen glanced at the sacred ancestor and the ancestral dragon. The 2 martial gods of the Yellow Spring Empire and the Yellow Spring sect would each hold back a Martial God Realm puppet. Meanwhile, the sacred ancestor and the ancestral dragon would work together to help one of them defeat a Martial God Realm puppet. Got it. Elder Huang nodded. Those in the ethereal transformation realm and above, follow me. Those in the ethereal transformation realm and above, attack. Long Yen and Elder Huang said. They stepped forward and charged at the puppets. Trespassers, die. A Martial God Realm puppet charged at Long Yen with a long spear. Bang! Bang! Chapter 2507. The 4 martial gods of the Yellow Spring Empire and the Yellow Spring sect respectively fought against the 4 martial god puppets. Their attacks were very simple. There were no complicated or flashy moves. Every punch and every palm strike was very direct, but the power behind it was terrifying. Each of his punches and palms possessed a destructive might. Even a peak martial monarch would be blasted into pieces by each of his attacks. The 4 martial god puppets were wearing blood-red battle armor. Each of them held a spear in their hand. They were like invincible generals. The spears pierced through the air with unparalleled killing intent. The 8 people on both sides were locked in a fierce battle. Ancestral Gragon and the foreign race's sacred ancestor looked at each other. Both of their eyes were shining. In the past, it was impossible for them to join forces. But now, they could only join forces. The 2 of them moved and pounced toward the puppet that was fighting with Long Yen. The 3 of them joined forces and attacked the puppet with all their might. Although Ancestral Gragon and the foreign race's sacred ancestor were injured and not in their peak condition, the 2 of them were still equivalent to a martial god when they joined forces. The 3 of them joined forces and immediately suppressed the other party. No one dared to approach the area where the martial gods were fighting. Lu Ming and the others also fought with the other puppets, but they were also far away from the area where the martial gods were fighting. These puppets were also extremely powerful. There were many experts, peak heavenly emperors, and even half a step into the martial god realm. But the number was a little less, only about 100. And Lu Ming and the others had even more. There were the Heaven Realm, the Evil God Tribe, the Yellow Spring Sect, and the Yellow Spring Empire. The number of the 4 added together was far above the puppets. Boom! Boom! Lu Ming controlled the 9 divine 9-dragon cauldrons and joined forces with Xia Nianqing to fight a peak heavenly emperor puppet. This kind of puppet was formed by a formation, but its entire body seemed to be made of an incomparably hard metal. It was indestructible, and every move it made contained boundless power. When it clashed with the divine 9-dragon cauldron, the divine 9-dragon cauldron kept shaking. Xia Nianqing's body was covered in black light, forming lotus swords that were incomparably sharp. He attacked from the side, leaving sword marks on the puppet's body. Although the puppet was strong, the 2 of them were still able to suppress it. For example, Qingcang, the Titan Longhorn Beetle, and the others almost always teamed up in 2 or 3 people. They completely had the upper hand. Of course, this was only possible because they were working together. Otherwise, it would be impossible for any 1 or 2 parties to be a match for these puppets. Bang! Bang! Not long after, some of the puppets were destroyed and turned into energy that dissipated. The puppet that Lu Ming was fighting against had its head chopped off by Xia Nianqing. Lu Ming controlled the 9-dragon cauldron to crush it. Qingcang, the Titan Longhorn Beetle, and the Evil God Tribe had all won. Their puppets were destroyed one after another. A moment later, all of the puppets were destroyed, and the scene was cleaned up. There were only 4 martial god puppets left. Meanwhile, the ancestral dragon, the sacred ancestor, and dragon flame had secured the upper hand in the battle. The martial god puppet was in great danger. Its body was covered in cracks. Divine power. Dandan stood there and sighed with envy. Divine power? Lu Ming looked at Dandan. The power that the martial god controls is divine power, an extremely terrifying power. What laws, great Tao, heavenly Tao, in front of divine power, they cannot withstand a single blow, like tofu. Dandan said, becoming more and more envious. Not to mention him, which of those peak heavenly emperors was not envious? Lu Ming also saw that whether it was the ancestral dragon, the sacred ancestor, or the martial god of the Yellow Springs world, the power they used had nothing to do with laws or heavenly Tao. They were all incomparably terrifying and invincible powers. This kind of power enveloped their entire bodies, making their attacks invincible. At the same time, their defensive power was also shockingly high. This kind of power is a bit similar to the power that Xiaoqing uses, but it is many times stronger than Xiaoqing's power. Lu Ming thought to himself. Everyone watched from afar. They could not interfere in the battle between the martial gods. Bang! At this moment, one of the puppet's arms shattered, and its aura began to weaken. The ancestral dragon, the sacred ancestor, and Long Yen became spirited, and various kinds of attacks poured down like a storm. Bang! Bang! Following their attacks, the puppet's body continued to explode, and with a loud bang, it exploded into pieces and dissipated into streams of energy. As the puppet was defeated, the outcome was already decided. The three of them teamed up to attack another martial god puppet, teaming up with another person, 4-against-1. This time, it didn't take long for the puppet to explode. In this way, many of them surrounded one puppet and defeated it one by one. After more than 10 minutes, the remaining martial god puppets were all destroyed. Whoosh! Whoosh! As all the martial god puppets were destroyed, the ancestral dragon and the sacred ancestor returned to their respective factions with a flicker, facing each other cautiously. Alright, you can cross the bridge now. The people of the Yellow Springs world can't. Long Yen said, and led the people of the Yellow Springs kingdom to the side. The people of the Yellow Springs sect also retreated to the side. Ancestral dragon, let's fight after we cross the bridge. The sacred ancestor looked at the ancestral dragon. That's what I want. The ancestral dragon said. In the next instant, both sides moved and charged toward the stone bridge. The stone bridge was very wide, and both sides took one side. They looked at each other as they charged toward the other side. This stone bridge was very long, several thousand miles long. From this, one could see how wide the abyss was. However, to them, several thousand miles could be crossed in the blink of an eye. Soon, they crossed the stone bridge. On the other side of the stone bridge was a boundless hilly area. Kill! The ancestral dragon roared as he charged toward the sacred ancestor. Fight! The sacred ancestor's battle intent soared as he fought the ancestral dragon. Kill! Kill! The evil god tribe and the beings of the celestial world were also filled with killing intent as they turned into streaks of light and clashed. Boom! Boom! The entire area was in an uproar. Space was torn apart, and terrifying forces filled the area. Roar! Qingcang turned into a 9-headed golden lion. His 9 heads roared as he pounced toward Duolei. The Titan Heavenly Bull also turned into its original form. Its horns were like battle blades as it fought a peak Heavenly Emperor of the evil god tribe. In addition, the 9 lives demonic silkworm and the others also fought with the other party's experts. Lu Ming controlled the divine 9-dragon cauldron and waved it continuously, blasting a 6-star Heavenly Emperor of the evil god tribe. Lu Ming, die! A figure suddenly charged toward Lu Ming at an astonishing speed. This was a royal member of the evil god tribe. His purple hair was like a waterfall, and his aura was wild, giving Lu Ming an extremely strong pressure. Lu Ming controlled the divine 9-dragon cauldron and attacked this person. Boom! This person struck out with his palm, colliding with the divine 9-dragon cauldron. Buzz! The divine 9-dragon cauldron shook violently and was sent flying backward. Lu Ming felt a terrifying force surge toward him. His body shook violently as he retreated, spitting out a mouthful of blood. This is an invincible expert who is half a step into the martial god realm. Chapter 2508. Those who were half a step into the martial god realm were known as demigods. They were also known as invincible experts. If the martial god realm did not appear, they would be invincible. Such people were extremely rare. Every one of them was extremely talented and terrifyingly powerful. The Primal Chaos Emperor, the Primal Chaos Sect Master, and the Immortal Emperor were all such people. There were not many of them in the entire Heaven Realm or the Evil God Realm. Originally, Lu Ming thought that people of this level would not enter the Yellow Springs Mountain this time. Instead, they would stay outside to guard against the enemy. He did not expect that the evil god tribe would bring someone of this level in. At this moment, they suddenly attacked, wanting to kill Lu Ming. Kill! This evil god tribe member's killing intent was cold. His aura was as deep as the sea. He took a few steps forward and charged toward Lu Ming, throwing out a few terrifying palm strikes. Lu Ming did not dare to be careless. He activated the divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron's power to the extreme. Swoosh! Swoosh! Sword chi swept out. Xie Nianqing also arrived at the side. Endless black lotus sword chi gathered into 3 beams and slashed toward the evil god tribe demigod. The attacks of both sides collided. An intense explosion occurred in this area. The divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron shook crazily. Lu Ming felt an incomparably terrifying power surge toward him. His body flew out, and he spat out another mouthful of blood. Fortunately, his vitality was extremely tenacious. If it were anyone else, they would probably be injured even more. Xie Nianqing was slightly better than Lu Ming. However, he also retreated, his face pale. The two of them were not a match for the other party even if they joined forces. A demigod was too strong. It was not just for show that he was invincible. Even 2 peak heavenly emperors could not be a match for a demigod. The evil god tribe demigod looked at Xie Nianqing, his eyes filled with shock. He did not expect that apart from Lu Ming, there would be such a young expert in the heaven realm. Such a person had never appeared in the evil god tribe since ancient times. Kill. The more talented one was, the more they had to be killed. The purple hair of the evil god race's demigod fluttered in the wind, and his aura was extremely powerful. He stared at Lu Ming and charged towards Lu Ming. Compared to Xie Nianqing, he wanted to kill Lu Ming first. That was because the outsider sacred patriarch had ordered them to get rid of Lu Ming if they had the chance. A purple sword condensed in his hand. Sword chi soared into the sky, terrifying to the extreme. As a demigod, how shameless of you to deal with a junior. Your opponent is me. A cold voice rang out. After that, countless bolts of lightning shot towards the demigod of the evil god race like lightning dragons. Every bolt of lightning emitted an aura that made one's heart palpitate. Even with Lu Ming's current cultivation, he felt a strong sense of crisis. The expression of the demigod of the evil god tribe also changed. He changed the direction of his purple battle sword and slashed out streaks of shocking sword light. They collided with the lightning, and a terrifying force spread in all directions. In the end, both the sword chi and the lightning dissipated. A figure suddenly appeared in front of Lu Ming. It was a human, wearing a lightning battle suit. Streaks of lightning swam around it. This person was tall and slender, and he looked to be around 30 years old. Of course, this was just on the surface. In reality, he might have lived for many years. Heavenly Lightning, it's you. I didn't expect you to come in too. The demigod of the evil god race's eyes turned cold. Heavenly Lightning? Could it be the Heavenly Lightning the Arch? Lu Ming's heart trembled slightly. He had stayed in the heaven realm for so many years, and he had heard of some of the top experts. The Heavenly Lightning the Arch was known as the Arch, a supreme among thearchs. Without a doubt, he was an existence on par with the primal chaos the Arch and the indestructible the Arch. A demigod, an invincible expert. Moreover, he had another identity, which was the disciple of the Technique Ancestor. Who was the Technique Ancestor? He was a peerless expert who had created the law cultivation system at the end of the primordial age. He was a peerless genius, a rare peerless figure. Such a person was too amazing. With his own strength, he had created the law cultivation system and made the law cultivation system strong to the extreme, surpassing many of the cultivation systems in the primordial age. However, the Technique Ancestor suddenly disappeared at the end of the primordial age. No one knew where he went. Therefore, in the primordial age, when the evil god race invaded the heaven realm, the Technique Ancestor did not appear. And the heavenly lightning the arch was a disciple of the technique ancestor. His background was extraordinary. Since you can come in, I can naturally come in too. We haven't fought for many years. Today, let's fight again. The heavenly lightning the arch was incomparably powerful. His entire body was enveloped by lightning, and he turned into a bolt of lightning as he charged toward the demigod of the evil god race. The two of them engaged in an intense battle. As for Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing, they charged toward the other members of the evil god race. In the midst of the great battle, Lu Ming suddenly discovered that there was fog in this area. Fog constantly emanated from the ground. Boom! Lu Ming controlled the divine nine-dragon cauldron and attacked one of the members of the evil god race. Originally, it was about to hit the other party, but for some reason, it suddenly hit nothing. The other party's figure instantly disappeared into the distance. The other party didn't have time to retreat. It was as if the distance between them had suddenly increased. Not only him, but the others present also noticed the abnormality. This was because when they attacked, they had already calculated the distance. But when they attacked, they realized that the distance between them and the other party had increased in an instant. At this time, the fog here was getting thicker and thicker, blocking their vision. Their field of vision was constantly shrinking. Everyone stopped what they were doing and didn't make a move. They looked around in surprise. Lu Ming suddenly realized that the people who were further away from him were completely enveloped by the fog. He couldn't see them at all. Gather! The ancestral dragon shouted, calling for the people of the heaven realm to gather. Gather! The divine ancestor of the evil god race also shouted. Whoosh! Whoosh! Two groups of people rushed toward the ancestral dragon and the divine ancestor. But in the process, they realized that the ancestral dragon and the divine ancestor were getting further and further away from them. Then, they disappeared in front of their eyes. Senior! Lu Ming rushed over, but he didn't find anything. The ancestral dragon had disappeared. Lu Ming turned around and realized that even more people had disappeared. Long Chen, Huang Ling, Xiang Xiang, Ouyang Moli, and the others had all disappeared from Lu Ming's sight. Xian Yanqing was the closest to Lu Ming. At this moment, his figure was getting fainter and fainter. Shao Qing, Lu Ming, the two of them rushed toward each other, but it was very strange. The two of them weren't far from each other. In the past, they could reach each other in one step. But now, no matter how they rushed, they realized that each other's figures were getting fainter and fainter. Then, they completely disappeared from sight. Shao Qing, Lu Ming shouted and rushed to the place where Xian Yanqing was standing just now. But he didn't find anything and didn't hear any response. Everyone disappeared just like that. Apart from the thick fog, Lu Ming was the only one left in the world. There should be a grand formation here that separates everyone. Lu Ming thought. Chapter 2509. Looking around, all he could see was a vast expanse of white fog. His field of vision was only 2 meters. Beyond 2 meters, it was all blank and nothing could be seen. At the same time, the world was silent and there was no sound at all. Lu Ming focused and paid attention to the surroundings, not daring to be careless. No one knew what kind of danger they would face next. Lu Ming waited for a while, but found that there was no movement at all. Except for the thick fog and no one, there was nothing unusual. After a while, Lu Ming decided to start moving. He couldn't just wait here. Lu Ming identified the direction of the abyss according to his feeling and then walked in the opposite direction of the abyss. Lu Ming's speed was not fast. He maintained a constant speed. In front of him was all hills. Lu Ming kept walking for more than 10 days. He didn't know how much distance he had covered. During this period, there was nothing unusual, nothing attacked him, and he didn't encounter any danger. Splash! At this moment, there was the sound of water flowing in front of him. Lu Ming was energized. More than 10 days of walking in a fog without any sound and with a visual range of less than 2 meters was very uncomfortable. If it were an ordinary person, they would have been driven crazy. However, cultivators had a strong will. More than 10 days were nothing, but it was uncomfortable. At this moment, Lu Ming was naturally overjoyed when he heard the sound. Lu Ming strode forward. After a while, there was light in front of him. Lu Ming's vision suddenly widened. There was no fog in front of him. What came into view was a sea, a boundless sea. And Lu Ming was now on a beach. This seawater, when Lu Ming saw the seawater, his eyes narrowed. Because the seawater here was yellow and misty. It was obviously the water of the netherworld. There's so much water of the netherworld. Does the water of the netherworld flow here? Lu Ming was very surprised. Standing on the beach and looking out, he could see islands in the sea. Some islands were very close to Lu Ming. They looked like small black spots. Huh! Then, Lu Ming saw a small boat on the beach. The boat looked like it was made of wood, but it floated on the water of the Yellow Springs without a scratch. This cursed land is called Yellow Springs Island. Could it be one of the small islands in this sea? And to reach Yellow Springs Island, I have to take this small boat? Lu Ming pondered. In the next instant, a great emperor weapon appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Lu Ming tossed the great emperor weapon out. Whoosh! With Lu Ming's strength, the great sovereign weapon flew out like a bolt of lightning. However, when the great emperor weapon flew into the Yellow Spring Sea, it seemed to be met with a strong resistance. Its speed became extremely slow. At the same time, there seemed to be a gravitational force in the Yellow Spring Sea. The great emperor weapon fell into the sea and disappeared. Lu Ming shook his head with a wry smile. Sure enough, flying was not feasible. He could only take this small boat. However, Lu Ming did not immediately board the boat and go out to sea. Instead, he searched the surroundings to find the others. Unfortunately, he did not find anyone. It seemed like he was the only one left in the world. I guess everyone's encounter is similar to mine. They should all see a small boat and take it out to sea. I believe we will meet again when we reach Yellow Springs Island. Lu Ming thought. Then, without hesitation, he jumped onto the small boat. He activated his strength and the small boat shot out like an arrow. Let's go to the nearest island first. Lu Ming headed towards the nearest island. It seemed that the island was not very far away. When he rushed there, he realized that it was really far away. The main reason was that the seawater here was all Yellow Springs water. He could not speed up the boat. So, he had to sail for more than an hour before he could travel a short distance. Lu Ming did not notice that not far from him, a figure suddenly emerged from the sea. The upper body of the figure was that of a human, while the lower body was that of a snake. It was a snake man. However, he could actually survive in the Yellow Springs water. If Lu Ming and the others saw it, they would definitely be shocked. He, another tribulation has passed. I haven't exercised my muscles for a long time. I hope you won't disappoint me. The snake man sneered, then dove into the sea and disappeared. Lu Ming continued to control the boat. Suddenly, Lu Ming was shocked. He felt a sense of danger. Without hesitation, Lu Ming turned around abruptly and threw a punch behind him. A terrifying fist force pierced through the void and blasted out. Whoosh! A figure rushed out of the sea behind him. It was the snake man. His entire body glowed, condensing a spear and stabbing at Lu Ming. Lu Ming's fist force hit it. With an explosion, Lu Ming's fist force shattered. The powerful force pushed Lu Ming and the boat back rapidly. A snake man? He actually came out of the Yellow Springs water. Lu Ming was shocked. Kid, your reaction is not bad, right? The snake man sneered. His long and narrow eyes were filled with excitement. Who are you? Lu Ming asked. If you want to know, defeat me first. The snake man said coldly. Fine, then I'll defeat you first. Lu Ming said. With a thought, the Divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron appeared. However, as soon as the Divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron appeared, it seemed to be suppressed by a powerful force and shrank rapidly. Then, it turned into a ray of light and flew into his glabella, disappearing. This, Lu Ming was a little stunned. Haha, you want to use a treasure to deal with me? Let me tell you, in this place, no treasure can be used. You can only rely on your own strength. Do you understand? The snake man laughed. I can defeat you without using a treasure. Lu Ming controlled the boat and rushed toward the snake man. At the same time, Lu Ming's body emitted a purple gold light. Lu Ming used the path of domination and condensed a purple gold long spear. At the same time, he also burst out the strength of his physical body. As soon as he attacked, Lu Ming used all his strength. With a sweep, the purple gold long spear rapidly expanded and swept toward the snake man. This is the path of domination. How is it possible? At this time, the snake man was completely stunned. He stared at Lu Ming with a very shocked expression and completely forgot to defend. Boom! Lu Ming's spear directly hit the snake man's body. The snake man's body directly exploded and disappeared into energy. It's not the real body, but just a projection. Lu Ming's eyes moved. At the same time, he was curious and surprised. Because the snake man just said that it was the path of domination. The snake man actually knew about the path of domination? Lu Ming was even more puzzled. Back then, the ancestral dragon also said that this was the power of a ruler. Now, this snake man also said that this was the path of domination. More importantly, the name of this power was given by Lu Ming himself because this power had a kind of charm of a ruler. Chapter 25:10. In every cursed land, there's a statue that contains the will of a sovereign. A Naga here recognized my sovereign Tao at a glance and was so surprised. What's the connection? Lu Ming kept pondering in his heart as thoughts flashed through his mind. After a while, Lu Ming shook his head. He couldn't figure it out, so he stopped thinking. Lu Ming continued to steer the boat to the nearest island. At this time, on the island Lu Ming was going to, a Naga was shouting and laughing excitedly. Ha ha ha. The Tao of the Sovereign Lord. So it's the Tao of the Sovereign Lord. I thought it would be a blessing to find someone who could possibly comprehend the Tao of the Sovereign Lord. Who would have thought that someone who has already comprehended the Tao of the Sovereign Lord would show up? Ha ha ha, I didn't expect this. Could it be that the heavens don't want us to die? No, I have to tell the others about this. This snake man was dancing excitedly. It was the snake man who had attacked Lu Ming previously. After talking to himself for a while, the Naga's body glowed. Then, another Naga appeared and rushed out, plunging into the Yellow Spring Sea and disappearing. Not long after, the Naga's projection appeared on another island and joined the other creatures. Why did you call us in such a hurry? A creature covered in flames that looked like it was made of magma said. A big discovery, a big discovery. Another tribulation is over, and the creatures from the outside are coming in again. The Naga cried. Nonsense, do you think we don't know? Many people have already set off to take the test. Some have even landed on some islands. The magma-like creature said disdainfully. That's not what I'm talking about. Do you know, I just found a foreign human who has mastered the Sovereign Tao. The Sovereign Tao, ha ha ha. The Naga laughed excitedly. The scene fell silent. The other creatures looked at the Naga with their mouths agape. Then, their breathing began to become heavy. What did you say? You said, someone has mastered the sovereign Tao? A humanoid creature with a pair of transparent wings said. He was tongue-tied and looked extremely excited. Yes, it's absolutely true. There's no mistake. The Naga nodded repeatedly. Ha ha ha, great. There's hope for us. Ha ha ha. Following that, the few living beings started laughing maniacally as though they had gone mad. No, this matter must be reported to the Lord. Wait for me, I have to report this matter to the Lord and let him decide. The humanoid creature with the transparent wings said. Go. The others urged him. Then, the winged humanoid creature soared into the sky and left, disappearing in the blink of an eye. The others waited patiently. They didn't have to wait for long before the humanoid creature with the transparent wings returned. How was it? What did the Lord say? The others hurriedly asked. My Lord said to adjust the assessment method for that person. The specific assessment method is as follows. The transparent winged creature explained the rules of the trial to Nye Tian. It's that? The others stared at each other. The Lord said that it's not that difficult. If he can't even pass this, then there's no hope for us. Only if he passes will he have a chance to help us complete that matter. The winged creature said. What if he doesn't pass? The others asked. Then we'll kill him. A cold killing intent flashed in the winged creature's eyes. All right. The others sighed, then left and began to make preparations. Lu Ming naturally didn't know that there were already some difficulties waiting for him ahead. He steered the boat forward, and finally, after a few hours, he arrived at the nearest island. The island wasn't big, and it was lush with vegetation. Lu Ming jumped onto the island. When Lu Ming leaped onto the small island, the small boat dissipated with a bang and disappeared without a trace. Lu Ming frowned slightly. It seemed that he could only go forward and not back. Without thinking too much, Lu Ming walked toward the depths of the island. Whoosh! Lu Ming hadn't gone far when he suddenly heard the sound of something breaking through the air behind him. A sharp light struck at Lu Ming's back. Lu Ming didn't even think. A purple gold spear appeared in his hand and swept out, blocking the attack behind him. Boom! With a boom, Lu Ming's figure drifted back slightly. At the same time, he saw a figure drifting back. It's you again. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. It was that snake man again. But this time, Lu Ming could see that the other party had come in person. Brat, that was just my projection. The snake man sneered. Who are you? Also, how do you know my path of sovereign? Lu Ming asked several questions. If you want to know, beat me first. The snake man sneered, and with a leap, he charged at Lu Ming again. Whoosh! The spear in the snake man's hand was as fast as lightning and shockingly powerful. Lu Ming erupted with all his strength, using both his physical body and path of sovereign. His spear trembled as he charged at the snake man. The two exchanged several dozen moves in the blink of an eye, but it was difficult to determine the victor. His strength is about the same as mine. Lu Ming's heart shook. He discovered that the snake man's strength was almost the same as his. It couldn't be so coincidental, unless the other party had intentionally suppressed his strength to the same level as his. Whoosh! Suddenly, the snake man's attack changed. His spear turned into several hundred phantoms that stabbed at Lu Ming, making it difficult to see clearly. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed slightly, and his mind became highly focused as he retreated. All he could see were the phantoms of the spear. All of a sudden, Lu Ming moved. He only thrust his spear once. This thrust did not pierce any of the spear's shadows. Instead, it pierced into the void. Bam! When Lu Ming pierced the void, there was a loud roar. A long spear suddenly appeared in the void and the other phantoms of long spears disappeared without a trace. Kid, your combat awareness is not bad, but this is far from enough. Again. The snake man's eyes lit up, and then he attacked again. His figure flickered, and he attacked Lu Ming with incomparable speed. This time, his attack was even more strange, craftier, and unpredictable. For a moment, Lu Ming was beaten back repeatedly. The other party's strength was about the same as Lu Ming's, but his attacks were more mysterious and often caught Lu Ming off guard. Will I lose if our strength is the same? No way. Lu Ming roared inwardly, and his mind became more and more focused. He entered a mysterious mode, as if everything in the world was under his control. Whoosh! Whoosh! Lu Ming's spear stabbed out continuously, and each strike blocked the other party's attack. Bam! Bam! Chapter 25:11. After so many moves, Lu Ming had completely adapted to the other party's attacks. Although the other party's attacks were strange, they were blocked by Lu Ming every time. Sometimes, Lu Ming didn't even need to deliberately block. It was as if it was an instinct. When the other party attacked, he could instinctively attack and block the other party's attack. Swoosh! Swoosh! When Lu Ming adapted to the other party's attacks, Lu Ming began to counterattack. Moreover, every move attacked the other party's flaws. Lu Ming could often find the other party's flaws and counterattack at the critical moment. This kind of battle awareness, the more the snake man fought, the more shocked he became. At the same time, there was also excitement. In the blink of an eye, the two of them exchanged another 100 moves. At this time, the snake man was completely at a disadvantage and was forced to retreat by Lu Ming. Stop fighting, stop fighting. Suddenly, the snake man raised his spear and erupted with an astonishing power. Lu Ming was directly bounced away. That was clearly the power of a peak heavenly emperor. After bouncing Lu Ming away, the snake man didn't chase after him. Instead, he shouted that he would stop fighting. Did I win? Lu Ming asked. You won. The snake man said. However, he wasn't unhappy at all. Instead, he was very excited. His eyes swept over Lu Ming's body as if he was looking at a treasure. Lu Ming's skin was covered in goosebumps from being stared at. Cough cough, senior, who exactly are you? Lu Ming asked again. Me? I'm the gatekeeper here. The snake man said. Gatekeeper? Lu Ming was puzzled. That's right, gatekeeper. You outsiders want to enter Yellow Spring Island. Since you have to accept the test, we gatekeepers will send you to different islands according to your performance. Let me tell you, many islands contain some opportunities. It will be very beneficial to outsiders like you. The snake man said. Then how can I step into Yellow Spring Island? Lu Ming asked again. Of course it's to pass all the tests. Just now, I was testing your combat awareness. Your combat awareness is not bad. You passed this test. The serpentine man said. Senior, how do you know that I control the Tao of the Sovereign Lord? Have you seen it before? Also, I've seen statues in the cursed lands outside, and they all seem to contain the will of the Sovereign Lord. What's going on? Lu Ming asked a series of questions. You'll naturally know the answer to these questions after you've passed all the checkpoints. Now, you've passed through this island and are on to the next one. The serpentine man said. Let's go to the next island. Didn't they say that many islands have opportunities? Doesn't this island have any? Lu Ming's eyes darted around. Stop looking. There's nothing on this island. After saying that, the serpent man moved and disappeared. Lu Ming was speechless. Others would have fortuitous encounters when they passed the trial, but why didn't he get anything when he passed? Lu Ming walked forward gloomily. After passing through the island, he saw a pontoon bridge on the beach ahead. It extended all the way to the next island. From afar, the island was fiery red, as if it was filled with flames. Clearly, his path had been arranged. He could only go to this island because only this island had a path. The other islands had no paths. Lu Ming stepped onto the pontoon bridge and sped up. When Lu Ming approached the island, he found that it was really covered in flames, like a mountain of flames. The blazing aura could be felt from afar. Soon, Lu Ming officially arrived at the island. What a high temperature! Lu Ming was secretly shocked. Lu Ming felt that the temperature of any place on this island was as high as tens of thousands of degrees. With this kind of temperature, not to mention ordinary people, even many hard refining materials and some strange metals would turn to ashes here. Even Lu Ming had to circulate his energy to resist. Lu Ming stepped onto the island. When Lu Ming stepped onto the island, the pontoon bridge in the Yellow Spring Sea disappeared. Lu Ming patrolled around. There was nothing. The island was completely silent. There was no sign of any vegetation or living creatures. This island should be the second stage. What will it have? Lu Ming did not dare to be careless. He was cautious. Boom! Boom! Suddenly, Lu Ming felt the ground shake. There seemed to be a giant walking towards him. Boom! Boom! The rumbling sound grew louder and louder. Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes focused. He saw a giant walking towards him. It was a giant with flames all over. Its body seemed to be made of magma. It was dozens of meters tall and looked like a small mountain. Boom! After a while, the giant raised its fist and smashed it at Lu Ming. In the process of smashing out, the giant's fist wriggled, turning into a giant hammer. The terrifying power made Lu Ming alarmed. Can't take it head on. A thought flashed across Lu Ming's mind, and his figure retreated hastily. In my hands, you can't escape. The giant opened its mouth. Taking a step, it actually leaped up. Its speed was astonishingly fast, approaching Lu Ming with extreme speed. Both fists blasted out continuously. Balls of magma actually flew out from its body, turning into magma fists one after another, blasting towards Lu Ming. There were too many magma fists. Furthermore, each one was extremely fast. Lu Ming tried his best to dodge, but he couldn't avoid all of them. Lu Ming could only condense a long spear with his Tao of Sovereign and sweep it out, sweeping towards the few magma fists. Boom! Lu Ming felt a terrifying force surge towards him. His body directly flew out, smashing into a small hill, vomiting large mouthfuls of blood. Peak Heavenly Emperor. Lu Ming's eyes were incomparably solemn. This magma giant's cultivation was Peak Heavenly Emperor. And this place was the same as before. Lu Ming could not control the Divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron at all. Unable to control the Divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron, Lu Ming just relied on his own strength. Even if he erupted with fleshy body strength and the power of Sovereign, it would only barely reach the standard of a 6-star Heavenly Emperor. It was simply impossible to be the other party's match. Bang! The magma giant took a step forward and rushed towards Lu Ming. Its speed was swift to the extreme, launching another attack. It pushed with both hands. A huge meteor formed, wrapped in magma through its body, slamming down towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming did his best, stabbing out a shocking spear light. But, under the bombardment of the meteor, Lu Ming's spear light directly shattered. The huge meteor directly slammed into Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming was sent flying again, vomiting large mouthfuls of blood. Lu Ming felt like his body was about to split apart. The terrifying magma wrapped around Lu Ming. Lu Ming felt like his body was about to turn into ashes. If not for him revolving the imperishable ancient scripture and desperately resisting, he probably would not have been able to withstand it already. But that magma giant did not stop at all, blasting another punch over. Chapter 25:12. Right now, Lu Ming was not a match for the magma giant at all. Even if he did his best, he was only equivalent to a 6-star heavenly emperor. The difference between him and a peak heavenly emperor was huge. Lu Ming was severely injured and did not have the strength to fight back. Could it be that I'm going to die here today? A thought flashed through Lu Ming's mind. He was unwilling. He was extremely unwilling. At the same time, he was also very worried about Xian Yanqing, Xiang Xiang, and the rest. The difficulty he encountered was so great, so dangerous. What about Xian Yanqing and the rest? What would happen? He was unwilling. He wanted to resist. He desperately urged the 9-dragon cauldron. However, there was a force between heaven and earth that was too strong, completely suppressing the 9-dragon cauldron. Bang! The magma giant landed beside Lu Ming, looking down at Lu Ming from above. You're too weak. The magma giant opened his mouth. Magma flowed on his body, making it impossible to see his expression clearly. If you want to kill me, then kill me. If you want to humiliate me, don't even think about it. Lu Ming said coldly. Don't worry, I won't kill you now. The magma giant seemed to smile and continued, I won't kill you now, but it doesn't mean that I won't kill you in the future. I'll give you a chance now. I'll give you 50 years. In these 50 years, you can only stay on this island. Within these 50 years, you have to think of a way to defeat me. If you can't defeat me after 50 years, I will kill you and destroy your body and soul. Do you understand? After saying that, the magma giant turned around and left. Not long after, he disappeared. Giving me 50 years, is this a test? Lu Ming pondered. Then, Lu Ming sat down cross-legged and circulated the indestructible ancient scripture with all his might, beginning to heal his injuries. Although his injuries were heavy, they did not harm his source. Under the effect of the indestructible ancient scripture, he quickly recovered. Not long after, Lu Ming recovered. Within 50 years, if I want to defeat that magma giant, my combat strength must at least surpass that of an ordinary peak heavenly emperor. After recovering from his injuries, Lu Ming had no choice but to consider this question. 50 years seemed very long, but that was only for ordinary people. For people at Lu Ming's level, it would pass in the blink of an eye. If he wanted to surpass an ordinary peak heavenly emperor in 50 years, it would be difficult. With Lu Ming's current situation, if he wanted to surpass an ordinary peak heavenly emperor, there were only 2 paths. The first one was a breakthrough in the physical body. Now that Lu Ming had cultivated the 7 gods' mysterious arts to the middle stage of the 6th level, his physical strength was equivalent to a 4-star heavenly emperor, or perhaps he could suppress an ordinary 4-star heavenly emperor. As long as he cultivated the 7 gods' mysterious arts to the late stage of the 6th level, his physical strength would skyrocket, equivalent to a peak heavenly emperor. Coupled with the power of the Tao of Sovereign, Lu Ming was confident he could defeat the lava giant. However, with the 7 gods' mysterious art at this stage, it would be extremely difficult for him to improve further. If he cultivated step by step, it would be normal for him to spend tens of thousands of years, or even hundreds of thousands of years. Those Archean body cultivators had to spend a lot of time and effort to break through to the next level. Why did Lu Ming break through so quickly before? That was simply because his lucky chances were too deep, obtaining one rare treasure after another. Those treasures, each one of them was a rare treasure in the world. Refining that kind of treasure, Lu Ming's physical body broke through consecutively. If he cultivated step by step, Lu Ming's physical body realm would be far from his current level. Wanting to cultivate the physical body to the level of a peak heavenly emperor within 50 years was virtually impossible. The second path was to cultivate the Tao of Sovereign to the peak heavenly emperor. Lu Ming's Tao of Sovereign was too powerful, able to cross an entire realm. As long as the Tao of Sovereign was cultivated to the peak heavenly emperor, Lu Ming's combat strength would be equivalent to a peak heavenly emperor. Then, with the power of the physical body, he could also defeat the lava giant. However, to cultivate the Tao of Sovereign to the peak heavenly emperor within 50 years, it was simply harder than breaking through the physical body. The higher the realm, the more difficult it was to break through. Previously, Lu Ming was able to continuously break through because he had comprehended the will of Sovereign on the statue. However, it had also taken him several decades. Now, to ask him to comprehend it himself and break through within 50 years, it was even more impossible. However, Lu Ming had to do it. Lu Ming had no doubt that if he did not defeat the other party after 50 years, he would definitely be killed by the other party. What should I do? Lu Ming's mind began to ponder at high speed. This must be a test. If it's not a test, then the other party can kill me right now. Since it's a test, there will definitely be a chance of survival. Oh right, that snakeman from before said that there would be opportunities on some islands. Maybe this island also has similar opportunities that can allow me to break through. Thinking of this, Lu Ming's eyes lit up and he began to search on the island. The island was not very big, with a radius of several thousand miles. Very quickly, it was searched by Lu Ming. There was nothing. This island did not have the slightest bit of vegetation, nor the slightest bit of life. Apart from flames, there was only flames. There was only a magma lake that was filled with terrifyingly hot magma. The temperature was at least a dozen or 100 times higher than outside. There's nothing. How should I break through? Lu Ming fell into deep thought. Rumble. At this moment, a violent rumble sounded again. The huge magma giant came again. Brat, do you think you can defeat me just by standing here in a daze? Watch me hammer you. The magma giant roared. Its arm turned into a huge magma hammer and smashed towards Lu Ming. Don't think that I'm easy to bully. Lu Ming was furious and fought with the other party. However, after a few moves, Lu Ming was beaten down and heavily injured. I just think that you're easy to bully. What's wrong? If you have the ability, hit me. The magma giant shouted in an infuriating manner. After that, it laughed loudly and left. Lu Ming was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Along the way, it had always been him suppressing others. This time, he was suppressed by a big fool. It was really depressing. No, I must break through within 50 years. I will not die here. Lu Ming's gaze became firm and then he began to heal his injuries. After his injuries were healed, Lu Ming began to comprehend the sovereign Tao. When Lu Ming was cultivating, the magma giant did not come to deal with Lu Ming. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed. In this year, Lu Ming focused on cultivating the sovereign Tao. However, his progress was slow and his gains were minimal. No, at this rate, I won't be able to break through to the peak Great Emperor realm in 50 years. Lu Ming muttered to himself. If he cultivated step by step like this, it would not be possible even if he had several times more time. Lu Ming's talent was already high enough. If it was someone else, without any opportunities, they would not be able to break through in 50,000 years, let alone 50 years. Rumble. At this moment, the magma giant appeared again after a year. As soon as it appeared, it raised its fist and smashed over. Lu Ming was naturally no match for the other party. Soon, he was heavily injured again. Brat, you haven't improved at all. I think you'll be dead in 50 years. Chapter 25:13. Lu Ming was so angry that he vomited blood. Especially the lava giant's annoying look, it made Lu Ming gnash his teeth in anger. But then, Lu Ming had no choice but to reconsider the problem of cultivation. No, cultivating the path of sovereign, without any external help, it's impossible to reach the peak of the great emperor realm within 50 years. It's better to cultivate the physical body. There are flames everywhere here, and the temperature is shockingly high. It's burning the body all the time, but it has a tempering effect. It's better to cultivate the physical body, and there's still a trace of hope. Lu Ming thought for a moment and decided to cultivate the physical body. It was not only because of the environment here, but also because there was only one bottleneck in the cultivation of the physical body. Once he broke through this bottleneck, Lu Ming's physical strength could reach the peak of the heavenly emperor realm. However, Lu Ming was only a 5-star great emperor. If he wanted to reach the peak of the great emperor realm, there would be 2 bottlenecks during this period. Breaking through one bottleneck was naturally easier than breaking through 2 bottlenecks. Having made his decision, Lu Ming put down the path of sovereign and began to cultivate the physical body. Lu Ming removed the defense on the surface of his body and circulated the 7 gods' mysterious art. Immediately, the temperature outside reached tens of thousands of degrees, enveloping Lu Ming's body. Chi chi chi, Lu Ming's body emitted a chi 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 sound. Buzz. Lu Ming's muscles vibrated. When his muscles vibrated, the high temperature outside seeped into the depths of Lu Ming's body, helping Lu Ming temper his body. After cultivating for a while, Lu Ming took out a stock of emperor medicine and refined the energy of the emperor medicine to assist in his cultivation. A few days later, Lu Ming stopped cultivating. It's a little effective. The speed of cultivation here is several times faster than other places, but I can't break through in 50 years. Lu Ming frowned and pondered. With the help of the high temperature, it was indeed faster to cultivate one's physical body here compared to the outside world. However, it was not so fast that it was exaggerated. Lu Ming estimated that it would be difficult to cultivate to the late-stage 6th level within 50 years. To that lava lake. Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes lit up as he thought of the magma lake. There was a lava lake on the island, and the temperature was at least several dozen times higher than outside. Lu Ming wanted to use the lava lake to cultivate. This was a cruel and extreme method, but Lu Ming had no other choice. Go! Thinking of this, Lu Ming directly rushed towards the magma lake. When they arrived at the edge of the lava lake, horrifying heat waves surged towards Lu Ming. The temperature here was 10 times higher than anywhere else. Just by standing on the side, the temperature here was already extremely terrifying. Lu Ming had no choice but to circulate his energy to resist. Get used to it first. Lu Ming was not in a hurry to rush into the magma lake. The temperature below was too high. It was far from what ordinary magma could compare to. It was too terrifying. If Lu Ming directly jumped down, even with the strength of his body, he would probably be melted. Immediately, Lu Ming removed his defense at the edge of the magma lake and began to cultivate. As soon as he removed his defense, the horrifying heat enveloped Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's body seemed to be burning. Chi chi chi, bursts of green smoke rose from Lu Ming's body. Bursts of tearing pain came from all over his body. However, Lu Ming did not even frown. This pain was nothing to him. Sure enough, Lu Ming felt that the effect of cultivating here was better. Lu Ming revealed a trace of joy. Then, he calmed his qi and focused on cultivating. Time passed quickly, and 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming had completely adapted to the high temperature of the magma lake. In these 3 years, the magma giant did not come to find Lu Ming again. Swish! Suddenly, Lu Ming opened his eyes and jumped into the magma. 3 years of adaptation was enough. Now, he wanted to use the magma to temper his body. He had been on this island for more than 4 years. Time passed quickly. 50 years would pass in the blink of an eye. He had to hurry. After jumping into the magma, Lu Ming sank into the magma. The terrifying magma wrapped around Lu Ming. Pain. Incomparable pain. Lu Ming discovered that his skin began to melt. Subsequently, his muscles began to melt as well. Block it. Lu Ming growled. While circulating the indestructible ancient scripture to recover quickly, he also circulated the 7 gods' mysterious art to temper his body with the high temperature here. In the end, it was blocked by Lu Ming. Although he was in pain all the time, the effect of cultivating here was indeed much greater. This was an extremely extreme cultivation method. Ordinary people could not bear it at all. This was because the physical body was constantly in the process of being melted and healed. How many people could endure such pain? Just like that, Lu Ming cultivated wholeheartedly. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, more than 20 years had passed. Lu Ming had been on this island for almost 30 years. However, Lu Ming's body still had not broken through. It was still at the mid-stage of the 6th level. Not enough, continue down. Lu Ming began to sink. The deeper he went, the higher the temperature of the magma lake. After descending a few hundred meters, the temperature here was several times higher than above. Lu Ming continued to cultivate. Not far away, the magma giant was watching. This kid is tenacious and decisive. He's ruthless to himself. Not bad, not bad. The magma giant muttered. After saying that, he turned around and left. Lu Ming continued to cultivate, completely forgetting the time. Every once in a while, he would sink for a period of time. Later, he almost sank to the bottom of the magma lake. Break through. On this day, Lu Ming growled. His muscles and bones trembled violently, emitting thunderous sounds. Moreover, there were waves of dragon roars. Boom! Boom! The surrounding magma exploded continuously. At the bottom of the magma lake, it was as if there was a wild behemoth rolling about. Boom! Suddenly, the magma exploded. A figure rushed out from the bottom of the magma lake. This figure emitted an astonishing aura from head to toe. This figure was naturally Lu Ming. At this moment, his muscles trembled. The blood in his meridians surged like an angry dragon, powerful to the extreme. Broke through. His physical body finally broke through, reaching the late-stage 6th level of the 7 gods' profound art. At this level, the strength of the physical body was equivalent to a peak heavenly emperor, almost cultivated to the peak. After a long while, the aura on Lu Ming's body concealed itself. Lu Ming's mind stirred. A set of clothes appeared and he put them on. Previously, in the magma lake, his clothes had long been burned. 46 years, I finally broke through. Lu Ming's eyes were incomparably bright, the corners of his mouth curling into a smile. It had already been 46 years since he came to this island. In these 46 years, Lu Ming did not rely on any rare treasures. He relied purely on his own willpower to break through the bottleneck and push his physical body to the peak. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.